How's it going, everybody? This is Doomkid. I'm here with my friend MtPain27, and our valuable guest, Coincident, has joined us today. How's it going, Coincident?
Hello, it's going good. Thank you for having me.
Oh, a pleasure, man. I'm a big fan of your work, and I'm glad to be having you on here. I know MtPain and I will be happy to talk to you about all kinds of Doomy things.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure to talk to somebody who loves games as much as we do.
Alright, looking forward to it.
So where do we start?
So,
did you want to lead off with something, or
we
Coincident, you
can
want to tell
start
us?
killing each other.
That's a great place to start, always.
Fair game.
I have literally the most laggy connection of all time. You guys will laugh when you see this video afterwards.
Oh man.
I'm getting
Sometimes it recovers. Sometimes it gets better.
My gameplay logic is updating at about 1 tick per second, put it that way.
Oof.
Like, you guys are just warping from spot to spot. That's okay. It's this Australian internet, you know. Gotta make do.
It is quite the meme. So I guess like the natural place to start usually is Coincident. How did you, one, get into Doom? Two, how did you start your YouTube channel, and what gave you the inspiration/motivation to start making videos?
Ooh. Okay, those are two very spread apart questions actually, because I started with Doom when I was a yay kid. So that was 95, I believe. So back then my father bought Doom 2. I think I never played Doom 1 back then in the 90s. And I couldn't play Doom. My father, he told me, oh no, this is a very violent video game. You can watch me play, but you can't play it yourself. So I spent a good 2 or 3 years just watching him play Doom, and I was glued to the screen because of course I loved it. It looked really great. I loved the action, killing demons. But yeah, I couldn't play it. And then I think I started actually playing Doom in 96 or 97. This was when I was playing Diablo 1. I don't know if you've played that game, but it's also pretty violent.
Oh yeah, Diablo.
And,
Yep.
Yeah,
Familiar.
the first Diablo, especially the cutscenes. But anyway, my father did not play Diablo because he didn't like RPG games. So he just let me play, and he didn't realize it was violent. So one day he caught me playing on an extremely violent scene, and he realized, oh, he's been playing this for a couple of months now, and he seems to be okay. Well, it's time for some Doom. So I think the official date might have been something like 96 or 97.
So you've been at it since your formative years. We're all fellow Doom kids here, it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely.
With Diablo, it's funny, my brother was really into that. I was lucky though, as a kid. I was allowed to play, you know, what was then considered violent video games. I think modern people would look at and laugh anyway at the standard, because it was so cartoony, sort of, you know.
Yeah.
But I was lucky though, because in the 90s there was serious controversy around that stuff, and I know a lot of people weren't allowed to play. I was lucky. I was allowed to play, so, you know, from a young age I was also going in and gunning demons. So I know the experience you're talking about, that Coincident of just loving what you see when it comes to Doom.
Yeah. I think
I actually also had the same experience with... Oh, sorry, Coincident, you go ahead.
In comparison to other video games, I think what brings Doom to the top, or at least what did bring Doom to the top back then, was the simple things like the death animations, the sounds of the guns and the rockets. The basic look and feel of the game was very good and very polished on release, and that was something unique back then.
Yeah, oh yeah, Doom was very unlike the games that had come before it. Even Wolfenstein, which has a lot of commonality, there's such a huge difference there, you know?
Yeah.
MtPain, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to mention that it's nice to run into somebody else who had a kind of secondhand first experience with Doom. I also grew up watching my dad play Doom for the first 2 or 3 years of my video gaming life. I was probably like 3 or 4 when I watched him play. But yeah, it was quite a bit longer until I actually got to play myself. But I got just as much enjoyment out of watching him play as actually playing, and it was mostly because of the music is what stuck with me the most.
Yeah,
from
the
TNT
music.
Evolution mostly. But the music, the guns, the animations, that all kind of has a way of ingraining itself in your head. And I don't think it's just because I was at a young age, because I don't know, I can still appreciate the crispness and the economy of design and the just genuine beauty of the art in Doom, even today.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that.
Man, this map, I love these old school deathmatch maps too. Like, I just want to say as a total aside, like, whenever I'm playing Doom and deathmatch, I have a tendency to go for like more old school stuff. You know, like I love my vanilla theme stuff, even if it's not. Oh yeah, what were you gonna say?
Said you don't say. Didn't know that about you.
Oh really? I know some crazy stuff. Well, I just wanted to ask, like, on that note, like, I want to ask what WODs appeal most to you in general, Coincident, and also like what chooses what WODs you stream whenever you're streaming.
Oh, how do I choose them? Well, ideally I don't. I really hate to have to choose stuff, so if I can put that burden on top of my viewers, I will do it. So that's what I've been doing more not recently, because it's been a while since I played a new Doom map set, but I really prefer to give the community a vote and to pick a collection of good WODs for me to play, and then the winner, I get to play it. And that has been working very well lately, and I intend to keep doing that. I'm terrible with choices, not just with Doom, but in life in general. When there's a collection of choices, especially if there are many choices and I have to pick one, I really have a hard time doing so.
You see, I can relate to that. I can also be a bit paralyzed by choice sometimes. I have a big, like, collection that I maintain of, like, at least half-decent vanilla WODs, so people can just download this pack and they don't have to sift through a bunch of newbie maps and stuff. They can just get right into, like, some decent dooming. But sometimes when I look at this list of, like, 100 mega WODs and, you know, several hundred single maps, seeing all that stuff at once, it's almost like I just sort of scroll through it and don't even know which one to pick. Like, it's the Doom equivalent of the Netflix scrolling thing, almost, that people talk about.
Exactly. And there's a lot of good choice in this community, which is great.
So yeah, that's the thing. There's so much quality to pick from in any format, and too, like, targeting any source port. Like, yeah. Do you have any, like, mods you've played, like, that you thought were some of your favorites? I know that you played, you used corruption cards for a while, didn't you?
Yeah. That is my favorite at the moment. I've played a couple of others. I've played Pirate Doom. That was a lot of fun too, and that was almost 2 years ago. And previously, much before I started doing YouTube stuff, I actually played Brutal Doom, which is something that I've intended to record for my YouTube channel since then, but I've never gotten around to it. Even though the mod itself is surrounded with a bit of controversy. I think it would be fun to play it again.
Brutal Doom is one of those. It's funny to me that the mod itself is controversial. Like, what were you gonna say, MtPain? It sounded like you had some thoughts on that.
I was gonna say, if you want my 2 cents, I think at this point Brutal Doom is actually wildly overhated. I think it's very unfairly overhated.
I think that's a fair assessment.
This is coming from somebody who's never played it and probably never going to play it. I just think, like, we're almost going counter-elitist at this point, the movement against Brutal Doom. Like, I think we should call for a ceasefire. Like, people who like Brutal Doom are not necessarily in the majority anymore. People who like exclusively vanilla stuff or old-fashioned style Doom are not. They're not like the hipsters anymore. We're doing fine. Both factions are doing fine, and I don't think there's any reason to kind of bash somebody for the kind of Doom they like to play. So.
I noticed, like, a big trend of that on YouTube as well. Like, people would get, like, it wasn't even about the mod itself anymore at a certain point. People were just, like, farming views on either side of the fence, and it's like, I don't know, like, I can't really talk too much about it. I've done a few, like, somewhat incendiary videos before, but mine were usually sort of just corrections of things people had put out there that were just, like, false. Whereas I don't know. The whole brutal Doom hate thing, it's just gone so overboard.
Like, I don't mind
there's
it being a
anything
joke.
wrong.
I don't
go
mind
ahead,
it being
Mike.
like a goofy joke about like haha, like I made a delinquent brutal Doom joke in my last Doom episode, but like, that's harmless. I think there's no. I certainly don't think it's an inferior way to play the game. For me, I enjoy the relatively unmodified version of the game, but other people like what I the kind of the meme of it's only good with brutal Doom. I think at this point has been vociferously disproven. I think those people are not given a whole lot of credence anymore. So we won. Like, it's over.
What were you going to say on there, Coincident?
I don't remember, but replying to MtPain, I don't think there's like two sides necessarily, and that's something that I try to avoid when I'm speaking with my community, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of ways to enjoy Doom, and they're not exclusive. So one common separation between people that is done is the speedrunners and those who are casuals, or rather those who do not speedrun. But it turns out that everybody, or almost everybody that speedruns, also enjoys the game casually sometimes. So I don't think it's beneficial to try and like create groups and pitch people against one another. I'm exaggerating, of course. There's no war, but I think you know.
Yeah. I know I was definitely being hyperbolic there. I wasn't trying to separate people into factions, but all I mean is that the reason people pick on Brutal Doom is because of people who used to spam the review sites and say, like, oh, this mod sucks except with Brutal Doom, which is, like I said, a meme and not really an indication of what the Brutal Doom people think. So
yeah,
it's great to hear the way what Coincident just said about the way his community is and the way he like wants it to be is awesome for me. Like, being an old school Doom World type who's been around for a long time, I've seen tons of weird factional stuff happen when it comes to classic Doom that, like, to any outsider looking in would just look like sheer insanity, because it is. And it's like people they get into factions over things like source ports and things like what mods are and aren't okay to play. It's very silly. Now, obviously, the vast majority of classic Doomers don't take these people seriously, but it's still just funny to me that it even happens, you know? Well, like, we all love classic Doom, which is already, like, for a while there, was not the most common thing. Now, thankfully, the new Dooms have brought it a bit more back into the spotlight. But, like, for a while there, classic Doom was not on, like, the main radar, let's say. And so, yeah, I feel like it's funny to see, like, people within something that was already kind of niche, like, dividing even further up, you know? Just very silly. So I'm glad to hear Coincident has not been involved in that kind of stuff in any way.
I think there's an element of needing to like reflexively defend your way of life when you are such a small fringe group, though. I don't know that it still persists necessarily or needs to persist today. The kind of almost insecure behavior of let's split further and further into groups and protect the thing we like because the thing we like is so in danger of being blown out. But yeah, I think that's it's like normal behavior among humans.
Yeah, I agree. It's not just in Doom, but in almost everything in life. But it ends up being more detrimental than beneficial. I think politics is perhaps the most basic example of that, because it was created as a system for that. Because separating people into groups means that you can get people to vote for you if they don't like the others. It's almost like a military strategy, like divide and conquer, something like that. But people doing that to their own communities it's just contradictory. It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Absolutely, but it does happen as a means of strengthening loyalty to that group. You get more and more extreme in your beliefs, and it happens on both sides. You kind of to reinforce, like, how far are you willing to go for the party? Like that's when it gets at its most toxic, politics.
It's really funny that. Oh, sorry, Coincident. You go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It's just funny that same stuff, that those concepts that apply to global politics, I like, we see examples of them on classic Doom forums and websites and YouTube channels and stuff. It's hilarious to me. It's like something that, because as Coincident said, it's just, even though there is a degree of, it's natural for us to behave that way, it is ultimately detrimental. like if all the brutal Doom and speedrunners and vanilla purists, and I'm just naming like different groups, so I know most people don't consider themselves rigidly part of one group, which is good. But like, you know, if everyone just sort of was like, I don't know, a little more united in there's been some embarrassing outbursts on Doom World and like classic Doom YouTube channels and stuff over the years, and it's just funny. It's like, man, why don't we all? I know it sounds so hippie-ish to say, but why don't we all just get along?
Yeah.
Well, we do when the Halo fanboys come by, when their gang rolls in and starts talking shit about Doom. All the Doom fans rise up.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Nothing better than a common enemy.
Yeah, that's right.
Nothing against Halo. I've never even played Halo. I don't dislike it.
Oh, it's just funny.
I've actually played it and I enjoy it, so
Oh, good.
not as much as Doom.
Yeah, no, I actually think Halo's pretty cool. But that's those classic Doom Guy versus Master Chief videos. That's one of those funny old rivalries.
That I won't bend on. Doom Guy wins every time. Way more badass.
I always thought so. It was hard to convince people once upon a time. Back in those middle school arguments I used to have.
This is a very BFG heavy map, isn't it?
It is, but I need some BFG to counteract this insane lag I'm getting on the Doom end.
You should definitely just use any means necessary.
If I do come through a little robotic or delayed on you guys' end, you just know it's my Australian connection.
So far, your voice is fine. You are unnaturally easy to kill today, though.
Yeah. Coincident, have you done much deathmatching at all, by the way? Have you ever, just done anything along those lines, streaming or otherwise?
Not streaming. I think the last deathmatch that I played before today was probably like 15 years ago.
Oh, wow.
I used to play a lot of competitive online shooters. Back in the day, it was Day of Defeat, back in the early 2000s. But I kind of stopped that, and I moved on to other game modes. And I never revisited Deathmatch. I don't know why, it's a lot of fun. It just happened that I didn't.
So you were into, it was Day of Defeat. Were there any other games you played sort of competitively online for any length of time?
Competitive, no. It was mostly just Day of Defeat, which was an alternative to Counter-Strike back in the day. There were other games, so that was actually a Half-Life mod. There were other Half-Life mods that I also enjoyed, but more on a casual type of play, like Counter-Strike itself, like Firearms, Sven Co-op, Natural Selection. I don't know if any of these ring a bell. Have you played any of those?
Natural Selection definitely rings a bell. Because my brother used to be a pretty avid Counter-Strike player back in the day. So I do, and a Half-Life fan as well, and I know he played some of those mods. So yeah. I always liked. Speaking of stuff in that sort of family, way back in the day, Team Fortress Classic was something that I played for quite a while. Like one of the few online shooters that I played other than Doom for any length of time. And I really liked it. People have told me Team Fortress 2 is great, but I just spend so much time doing Doom stuff that I don't play that many other multiplayer games, you know?
Yeah. I do have a feeling that probably Doom Deathmatch is going to be a lot more fun than many of the others. I don't know. I should try this more often.
That's the
Very
thing.
simple. It's simple and fast paced. That's the main draw of it for me. I didn't play any deathmatch when it was like a hot commodity, but I enjoy it almost every time I play it.
For me, it's like Doom is already so like, well, you don't have to play Doom fast, but Doom is pretty fast and like, high flying in general, even though you can't jump. And yeah, I don't know, the Doom deathmatch is just it's so I don't know, there's nothing quite as thrilling as it for me. Like, when I really want to get a challenge out of Doom, playing in a deathmatch server, now right now is a little bit, we're just having a casual match. But if I was having a better internet day than this, and I wanted to actually get some serious, like, man, I want to play Doom and I want it to, like, take all I've got. For me, deathmatch is the best way to fulfill that itch, even more so than really difficult single-player maps. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It's definitely one very interesting form of competition. A lot more direct than speedrunning or difficult maps, because then you're just competing with yourself, mostly. Whereas deathmatch, you're in direct competition with your peers, which is very interesting.
I've always liked that
Especially
dynamic.
if you can choose your peers. I think that's one of the things that drove me away from competitive online gaming back then, which was that I used to play on public competitions, and well, there's toxic people. There were a lot of toxic people back then, and probably there still are. But when your close environment is composed of multiple of those people, it's kind of translates onto you. Does that make any sense?
Right. And if you don't want those influences on you, of course, then the best thing to do is just avoid that public setting.
Yeah, just find some friends. I think that's the best way to enjoy it.
Yeah, I agree, because, I've had, in fact, MtPain, do you remember what happened a couple years ago?
Be more specific.
You tried to do some multiplayer events, but then people ruined them by joining them and saying all kinds of
Oh, that was just
garbage.
last year. That wasn't a couple of years ago. That was just last year.
Well,
I
forgive me,
don't
my
know.
memory's terrible.
What happens?
I try to get a little Patreon deathmatch thing regularly going, and we had 2 events, but I didn't know how to. At that time, Doomkid and I weren't on like regular speaking terms. We like knew each other, but I asked him for help to set up a server, but we didn't. We at that point didn't get that. We didn't get that far. We basically just hopped in a public server. I told everybody where to go, and upon seeing a lot of people in those servers, trolls arrived and started spamming racist, transphobic gobbledygook, pretty much just to ruin everybody's time and just be as disruptive as possible.
Yeah.
It fizzled after that, because I don't believe we were trying to do it through Xandronum, because I couldn't do it on ZDaemon, and Otomex was not quite as ironed out as it is today. I don't think that, or there weren't as many options.
No, that's fair to say. Otomex has had a lot of improvement over the last year.
Well, and not to mention, I was just kind of sickened by the whole experience. I didn't want to fight against randos, and it had left a bad taste in my mouth. So I definitely understand the idea of. I mean, I prefer single player games because, well, first of all, there's the predictability of the monsters and getting to kind of take things at your own pace always. But also the human element of multiplayer can get exhausting and sometimes upsetting.
I've dealt with similar things before. Like, I've run the Doomshot cluster, and for years things on that front have been fine. But years ago, I had some people trying to spam the cluster just to ruin it and take it down. And it's basically I'm providing a place for people to play online, and a place for people to upload WADs, which are things that are not super common. There's id Games, ModDB, WAD archives going away soon, unfortunately. So, yeah, I was just trying to provide something helpful, and a group of 2 or 3 people were basically just trying to ruin it for everyone, and that's where the human element just becomes terrible. Such a small amount of people can ruin something for so many people, And so that's we're talking too many negative things though, because I've had a lot of positive experiences in Doom Deathmatch as well. I've met some people who are lifelong friends through it, which is one thing that is. If people in the single player realm who don't get out and sort of rub elbows with other Doomers in the community, so to speak, they're sort of depriving themselves of the potential to meet people that they really like. So that's multiplayer is funny. You can get the worst aspect of people being jerks, or you can get the best aspect of meeting people who you become friends with for years. It's really funny that way,
That's very true.
Absolutely.
I agree. And even though we're talking about the bad stuff, I have to say that within my interactions within the Doom community, even though there's been some bad stuff, obviously, the vast majority is positive feedback, and that's something that I'm very grateful for. And probably why I'm still in touch with the Doom community after all this time, whereas the other communities that I've interacted with, I'm not going to name them, but there have been many, I kind of drifted away after a while. So I do believe that we have something very special here in this community.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Like, if I didn't love it so much, I wouldn't have stuck around so long after all.
I think one of the great things about the community is, Doomkid, you mentioned there being kind of single-player people missing out to some extent on connection-building opportunities. I might dispute that just a little bit. I don't know about back in the day was probably the best way to meet people, but nowadays Doom is just as much kind of an art scene as it is anything, as it is a competitive sport, as it is just a forum for people to bond over the same game. Because like there's mappers who create consistently amazing, unique, and different work you're joining Doom World is like getting access to a gigantic forum full of people's creations that they get to share with each other, and that could be, for me, that's a more personal exchange than the deathmatch. Although you have really opened my eyes, particularly to the joys of DM.
I'm glad to have done so, and I think a lot of people agree. That's one thing that I think is very true. With Doom World, and also like in the last like 8 years or so, we can also say like Doomtube to a degree. There's a lot more opportunities to actually just share your creations and like your love of Doom in fun and interesting ways. The only way back in the day so much was to just co-op and deathmatch people in random servers and hope you got along in the text chat, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
By the way, my comment about Doom being an art scene is not my own idea. I have to cite Linguisa for that. I think he wrote an article or gave an interview about how, using that phrase as the header, Doom is an art scene, which I picked up and have run with since.
Well,
my own mind, that is.
When you see...
Totally agree with that sentence.
Sorry, Coincident, what were you saying?
No worries, go ahead. I just shot you in the face, so you can talk.
With Doom, I mean, you see the certain creations people make, and there's almost no way to deny, even at a glance, like, yeah, this is definitely an art scene, especially with how many different interpretations and ways of putting their own spin on Doom people have, and that I've seen, and I continue to see, like, years go by, and the mods continue to get more and more creative and more impressive. Not that the ones from 20 years ago weren't, that they are as well, but it's just seeing people push it in new and interesting ways even after all this time is something that really also draws me to Doom, like, even aside from the social aspect, you know?
Absolutely. And it's just not just mods, it's mods, maps, music, mods with dehacks that people can speedrun challenges or different ways to play the game. There's so many things, so much content, so many ways to enjoy Doom, that I think it's to a scale that it's probably the #1 game in the world that is modded to this extent. I'm trying to think of others highly moddable games, mostly around Half-Life ports and Source Engine games, which obviously are also very moddable, but I don't think they have grown to such an extent such as Doom. I might be mistaken. It's been a while since I've been in touch with the Half-Life community, but I think it's a really large thing we have here, and high quality too, so it's really good.
Yeah, I love that about it.
Doom has the...
Oh, you go ahead.
We both started talking at the same time.
Yeah, let's just...
I was just going to say, Doom has the longevity, I think. I know Skyrim has been modded like to an insane degree, and kind of as broadly as any modern game. It's surprisingly moddable for such a fully finished AAA game to begin with. Like, Doom is relatively a lot simpler. But in terms of the incredible scale, variety, and loyalty, in terms of scale, variety, and loyalty, I don't think Doom can be beat as a modding scene.
And also, like, just longevity too. On top of all that, like there's like just so many years. Even if everything was garbage, I suppose it would still probably be close to the #1. But thankfully, we just have such a great situation here. I know there's other games where people wish for a modding community. I know it's very obscure and it's a lot simpler and older than Doom, but there's a game called Marble Madness. That's an arcade game from and an NES game and stuff that I love. And it's such a simple game that I would think modding it would be really easy. making custom tracks and stuff for the marbles. But I don't see it, you know, you never see it, and so it's nice to me that a game I love so much like Doom just has all this variety out there for me.
Actually, a great question. If there was a game, another game in your life that you wish had a modding scene like Doom, what would it be? All three of us can answer that.
Well,
I mean, Doomkid just answered it. But...
Yeah, okay, well, I'd like to hear what you guys say on that.
Oh, sorry, I didn't understand the question. Are you talking like a modding scene for another game, or?
I basically, if there was another game in your life that you like that had a modding scene, to the extent that Doom does, it made custom levels and stuff, what would you want it to be?
Oh.
So, like, a game that you
I have
love.
to think about that.
Yeah.
That's an interesting question.
Let me go. I have two pretty good answers, I think.
Go ahead.
And they might even exist. I don't get out much. For a more retro example, another game I watched my dad play when I was a kid was called Icewind Dale. It was a top-down Dungeons and Dragons. Basically, I don't know what the exactly what the term is. It's sort of turn-based, but it's you can like stop and start and tell your characters to attack things and kill monsters and get gold and treasure and stuff. And I feel like it'd be great if there were like custom campaigns people made with their own items and their own monsters and all that stuff, their own maps. I feel like that's done every day. People play Dungeons and Dragons every day, but if there was a kind of hub, I'm sure that does exist. I'm sure somebody point me the way to that, but that would be something that I'd be interested in playing just for fun. A more contemporary example is I don't think I've enjoyed a first-person shooter besides Doom. I think that my second favorite first-person shooter is got to be Dusk. And if there were custom maps for Dusk, I know that they tried to get that going. I'm not sure if the assets were all there or if the interest was totally there. I know some people have made custom maps for Dusk, but it's essentially would be akin to making custom maps for Quake. But I think I like Dusk's gameplay, weapon balance, monster roster, and art style a little bit more than Quake. So that would be my deputy answer.
Dusk is actually one of the games that I have on my list to play. Hopefully not too late. And I never picked it up because I thought, oh yeah, if I'm going to play this, I need to make a stream or a video or something else, and I don't have the time for that yet, so I've been postponing. It's one of the drawbacks of being a content creator.
That's a shame. I mean, hearing you say that makes me want to ask, and makes me want to discuss in general, because I have this problem too. Do you feel like you lose out on the enjoyment of the games you cover in your streams and in your content creation by being a content creator?
Well, yes and no. I'm going to answer the no first. I don't think it reduces the enjoyment. I think it improves the enjoyment, especially during live streams. Because when I'm playing blind runs and people are watching the same experience as I am and they're discovering the map set at the same time as I am, I think it's a great way to share the experience, and the fact that I'm seeing a side window on my second monitor with all the text scrolling from the chat and people laughing or saying comments or sending me tips or helping me out, that's an extremely positive interaction that I think makes the content creation process, or at least the streaming process, a lot more enjoyable. The same can be said about offline videos on YouTube, for example, but that's after the fact. It's the comments that you get whenever you publish the video 2 weeks later or whatever. So in that sense, I think it's more positive. It adds to the enjoyment of video games. However, it's obviously a very time-consuming thing. So what I find is that I have a lot less time to just enjoy games on my own. And so the quantity of video games that I've played since I started creating content seriously, I think reduced by a factor of 10.
It's mostly devoted to your channel, right? Like you just said with Dusk, you can't start playing it unless you want to do a stream on it.
Yeah, I feel like it's cheating if I play something offline that I know my viewers would enjoy and I don't even create a video about it. Especially if it's Doom or if it's a first-person shooter like Dusk that I know that people would enjoy. I mean, probably it would be fine, and I could play it again later and make a video about it. But I personally, it's something, I'm criticizing myself, I'm judging myself, but I feel like it's cheating. Probably people would be fine with it, I don't know.
My take is, I totally hear everything you're saying, and I have been there, especially with Doom. Although I don't stream, but I want to turn everything that I touch Doom-wise into content. Like I want to. It's like, well, yeah, I have in the back of my mind with every WOD I'm playing, like, you know, what would this episode look like? And let's be honest, the majority of the Doom I play, it's like I'm looking for episode material. I'm not looking to just play totally for fun. Although the thing for me is, though, my first playthrough I absolutely do for myself. I have to set that aside. I would not. I put zero premium on showing my viewers my first response to a WOD, and actually I think that often does the WOD a disservice, at least from where I'm sitting, because I tend to get, when I know the WOD I'm playing better, I enjoy it more, as opposed to I can easily get frustrated with obscure secrets or difficult fights the first time through. I think I would prefer to give, at least, I mean, my content is like very much after the fact and scripted, stuff like that. But yeah, personally, I do think the first playthrough though belongs like just me and the WOD. That's where I think that's how I keep it a little bit. That's how I keep myself healthier in terms of my relationship with Doom.
I totally understand that, even though I do the exact opposite. I only really care about putting out my first experience of the map, and then if I decide to replay it, I'm okay with doing it offline and not doing extra content for it.
That's
but
funny.
I understand the opposite, and sometimes the frustration and the problems of dealing with, well, issues within the map, well, they get very visible, of course, and I think that's obvious for anybody that has seen my videos or my streams. My frustration is out there. I don't hide it. It's very obvious to see. I think it's part of the experience, so I try to share it as well, the good and the bad. I'm not sure if that's a good idea or not, and I'm pretty sure that people who have discovered my content in a phase that I was more frustrated with Doom or with a particular challenge that I was doing at the time, they will probably be put off by the frustration that I was showing at that interval of time. So I may have lost viewership because of that, but in the end, this is what I want to do. I don't want to hide the negative and just show the positive.
You know, and I think there's a large contingent of people out there who either relate to or otherwise just flat out enjoy the frustration. So it's almost like it's not to look at it too analytically in this regard, but it's almost like you're tapping into another market with the frustration itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm
not sure. I think it can be divisive.
I'm sorry. What is this map? What the hell is this?
It reminded me of Dead Simple, but it's not.
Yeah, it's Dead Simple, all right. It's just a ring of. You grab the BFG and you win.
It's round Dead Simple.
It's basically like I think we need like 20 people to make this more chaotic, more ridiculous. Because
can you guys hit page up?
Vote. Page up.
Page up. Yeah.
There we go.
Okay.
I needed a real map.
That's that one. I don't know about that one. Yeah, this one looks better.
But yeah, no, it's funny on the topic of like content creation making a game less enjoyable. For me, I found that I actually got into a rut where it's like I would never finish single player stuff, and I would like cheat to get through parts of it, and I don't know, it didn't really give me as much satisfaction as playing Deathmatch for many years. But then when I found out, like, hey, if I record my playthroughs and my initial reactions to stuff, and I put it on YouTube, there's at least some people out there who get, like, a good amount of enjoyment out of that, and that also gives me enjoyment. So it's like, through recording playthroughs, I've found a new layer of enjoyment of Doom, which I already really liked in general, but it actually assisted in my love of the game, if that makes sense.
I totally agree. I think you phrased it very well, actually. The fact that you want to share your enjoyment of the game and you can see other people also having some kind of enjoyment from what you've just shared is extremely motivating. At least for me.
No,
I totally agree with that.
The composition of this conversation is fascinating because we have two people who do a lot of, well, Coincident plays as live as it gets. He's streaming. Doomkid does playthroughs, and I do a kind of a post-mortem of each WOD. We really do have the full spread here.
Yeah, that's true.
It's cool.
I get tense. I don't know about you guys. I get extremely tense playing Doom in front of people, even if it's not directly in front of people. Like recording, knowing people are going to watch me play later it stresses me out. That's why I don't do it.
It's funny when we've had the Chat N Frag's MtPain. Do you feel like they're a bit of an exception to that normal feeling of like it's?
No, really... I'm stressed now. I'm a little stressed right now, actually.
Don't worry, you're not the only one.
This is not first. I mean, clearly there's no stakes here, so I've gotten over it. Me last year when we were first doing this for Christmas, different story. But yeah, in general, I don't know. It's funny because I'm sure it goes back to like me and my brother would watch each other play video games all the time, and it was we would never play without a spectator. And yeah. I got on his nerves, and he got a little bit on my nerves, and I'm sure that I just that whole attitude that was lifted. That whole situation was lifted for me when I went to college and played games by myself. At first, it was like a little bit lonely, but then it became like a thing I could like, hide away from the whole world in. And that's what I like about playing Doom, is you get to completely exit the real world and enter the world the mapper makes for you. And yes, I totally understand how, like, because I watched Casino for years, and I love seeing him experience a map, whether or not he's played it already. So I understand the vicarious, like, passing on of vicarious enjoyment of a map to an audience. But I'm just not of the constitution to be able to do that myself.
It's one of those things.
I totally understand. And I think that sorry, Doom Guy.
No, it's okay. You go ahead, Coincident.
Right. I think the nervousness, your Doomkid, sorry.
Oh, it's not, dude. It's funny. My friend Sandwedge, who I stream with pretty regularly, he calls me Doom Guy every now and then he's read WOD intermission texts that say Doom Guy, and he's accidentally read it as Doomkid. So
that's hilarious.
Okay, I'm glad to know it's not the first time you're called Doom Guy then. What was I saying?
We were responding to, you said nervousness. The nervousness.
Oh, yes. Yes, you were talking about nervousness. I think what you described applies entirely to what I feel on stream. There's always a bit of nervousness, but I kind of embrace it. That drives me to either play better or speedrun better or push myself. I think when I'm doing something, either offline content or live content on a setting where I'm not nervous, which has happened, by the way, I do much worse, because that also means that I'm not excited to get what I'm doing done. I think the nervousness is part of the excitement and the love that you have for the game showing. And when you lose that, you get bored with the game and you'd rather do something else at that point.
Right,
That's my take on that. There's
no sense of like energy and edginess. Edginess is not the right word, but you get this sort of yeah, I get that. Like the nervousness almost can act as like a fuel of sorts, and it feels like it gives it a little bit more life, I've
got two counter theories, at least personally, for that. Not that, I mean, you're but for one thing, that's relatable to when I played sports as a kid. I got nervous, and it did make me better to an extent because it got me ready to do the thing. But I also was like, later in life, I realized I was probably like 10 times more nervous than the other kids. Like there's nerves, and then there's, my hands are shaking, and I feel like I'm gonna vomit before games, like
right,
in Little League, and it's like that's not right. There's something else. There's something else going on there. I had the same thing when I did like my school had a quiz bowl team, and yeah, I'm a nerd. I know, I get it, I own it. But yeah, it's the same thing before those. Now, also, I do feel nervous when I play, difficult Doom WODs, or even like, WODs that I don't know very well. But I guess the other, the last excuse I have for not wanting to play live per se, or showing commentary, is because I like to experience that by myself. Maybe I selfishly want to hold on to the experience for me, and I'm somewhat uncomfortable sharing myself unfiltered, I guess.
I totally understand both your perspectives on this. I've always had this thing with Doom. When I first started playing WODs years ago, I had an urge to like reach out to the community and stuff, and that's why even from such a young age I was already interacting with other Doomers and like learning how to make maps and already building up a collection of WODs and stuff. It was like I did have a degree of nervousness, and I still do, like meeting new people, but at the same time it's like it's just really fun. There's something fun about whenever I'm streaming, especially, or I'm playing back a recording and everyone's watching my, you know, unfiltered reaction. People hop in the chat and like sometimes they're just so funny or interesting. You know, sometimes there's you know, bad actors as well.
I can tell you right now, this is the most social I have ever been in my life. Like this me right now is the most social I have ever been in my life, which should give you some idea of the amount of that I was a hermit before. Yeah,
it's good.
I think we need people.
Sentiment.
We need people like you guys. Like the human race needs performers, needs athletes, needs people who are exhibiting their skills and their personalities for others to see. I think that's a vital element of any community as well, and that's you both fill that niche beautifully.
Absolutely, and nowadays we live in the golden age for that kind of stuff. If you wanted to do what we do now, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago, it would be almost impossible, unless you're a top athlete playing on the Olympiads. Other than that, if you're not on TV, you don't exist socially. I mean, I'm exaggerating. You still have your friends, but it's not something you can share, like your experiences, like you described right now, MtPain.
What initially drove you to say, you know, I want to either record streams, I want to make videos, scripted videos. What was the initial fire under your ass, so to speak?
Okay, so the very beginning, it was speedrunning, actually. And I didn't even stream at the time. I only started streaming almost 1 year after I started creating videos regularly. But this was the beginning of 2020. And I was actually participating in a speedrunning competition for Doom that Carl Jobst was organizing. I'm not sure if you've heard of it back then. It was pretty much trying to beat E1M1, UV Max.
UV Max thing, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And so I needed to make the videos. It was actually the second game that I was speedrunning. I speedran something else before. But it was the sheer necessity of publishing a result in video format that got me to publish videos, and then people got interested. I made some more, and things pretty much just snowballed since then.
That's cool. That's a really cool start into it. It's funny that Carl Jobst, who I know that all three of us probably are pretty, you know, we love his Doom content. I know that, and
yeah.
I watched that video the day it came out. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, man. Like that's a really good way to get into it, I think.
Video on the Chasm speedrun is still a masterpiece. But actually, that was one of the questions on that list that I came up with in 90 Seconds Coincident was, what's your true passion, do you think? Do you think it's still speedrunning, or is it content creation at this point?
My passion? Well, neither of those.
Okay.
Passion is just video games. And I enjoy video games of many kinds, of many types, of many genres, even if I'm not creating content and I'm not speedrunning. So those things just came much, much later to my real passion, which is enjoying video games in any way that I can. That obviously drives me to want to create content because I want to share that enjoyment, like we spoke before. But speedrun is also something much more recent in my life. I wouldn't think I have a passion for it. I would rather describe it as a very unhealthy love-hate relationship.
Oh, okay.
But when you bring it down to basics, it's just video games for the pleasure of playing, and then sharing that.
Yeah.
That's a good answer. Okay. That's not what I was expecting either. But that's really cool. Like, I guess that's true too. Like, in my case as well. Like I do have a passion for Doom, I would say, and a lot of gaming in general for sure. But Doom's like always been my star child, so to speak. But if I had to pick one branch of like playing Doom and classic games in general that I would say was my favorite aspect of it, it's probably what we were talking about earlier with like playing online, making connections and stuff, and just enjoying the thrill of the game itself too. The gameplay's so fast and fun.
Yeah, but I think that the sharing part is also a big part of it. So I guess the correct answer to your question about passion is content creation. Because when you enjoy something a lot, I think the thrill of sharing it with other people and seeing other people enjoying it as well is it's a very unique feeling. Very heartwarming.
Yeah,
Definitely agree. I always describe myself as a writer who plays Doom, not a Doom player who writes. So I would say my passion is also in the creating of the content and the sharing my findings with people and my, I was awakened to the joy not just of Doom, but of sharing in a thing we all love at the same time when I joined the Doom community proper.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that.
Oh, you know what?
Hold on, I have a question about these maps. All of them have an exit button. What's the point of that in the deathmatch map? What is it for?
So these maps are old vanilla maps, and they're from the 90s. Back in this time period, the only way to actually set an automated exit with Doom was a time limit. In vanilla Doom, there was no frag limit option, which is crazy to me. But I don't know if it topped out at 50 or something. I don't think it did. I think you could just frag infinitely, and you either had to set a time limit, or someone had to race to the exit. So these exits. Yeah, it's funny if you try to press them, which it looks like. Is that your corpses there, coincident by the exit?
Yeah, I pressed it like 5 or 6 times. Do I get points for it?
-1 points, yeah.
Oh, negative points. That's my favorite kind.
Yeah, that's funny. Like, I don't know why. There's a lot of servers these days just have it so the exit buttons don't work. But for some reason, in the really easy early Z Doom and multiplayer ports, they made it so the exits actually actively kill you and take a point away, which is just so mean.
Tried to leave.
And I've noticed that there's always a chainsaw by the exit door.
You know, it's funny.
Which is an interesting
obligatory chainsaw
design choice.
I feel like it used to be almost like a meme of the time of old school Doom deathmatch mapping, where people would either put a chainsaw or a blue armor in the exit. They're like the two most common for some reason. Don't know why that is. I think it's like one map did it and people liked that map and kept emulating it, so it just became a trend. Like, I don't even know where it came from originally.
Kind of like you were describing why the Inmost Den sequels were created.
Oh, it's many sequels.
One map did it, and people liked it for some reason, so they just kept doing it.
Yep, that's how it became a trend.
Most Dens 1, and Most Dens 2, and Most Dens 3, Helix, and others. Oh, Eric Alm was map 14 of Scythe. I don't even know what that's called.
Oh, wow.
There's no shortage. What was that?
Actually, I'm not even. I don't recall which map is in Most Dens just by the name. I know it's from TNT, but.
Oh no! Inmost
what map number is it?
14.
Yeah, it's the one that's like brown. Oh. It's all brown outdoor bridges over water, like.
Yeah, I know. I see. Yeah, I was confusing it with TNT.
There is one like that in TNT, isn't there as well?
Well, no, there's one Neurosphere. Is map 18 of Plutonia.
Oh, Neurosphere. Yeah, that's right. Not Plutonia, not TNT.
I forgot about Neurosphere. That's yet another Inmost Dens clone. It's ridiculous. It's like the most overdone Doom aesthetic.
Entryway. It's in Deathmatch. Entryway. Copying Entryway's visuals was like way overdone in the 90s as well. So many like.
True.
Well-designed 90s deathmatch maps have that tech green and like brown, like.
What's your secret to consistent scheduling / uploading? Because if I have one drawback in Dean of Doom, it's that I burn out. I reach a point where I physically can't keep working, or just I feel, I don't know, like schedules can be constrictive, at least where I'm coming from. But you seem
Well-
to just be workmanlike, and I want to know what your secret is.
Sorry, but I don't have one. I share exactly what what you described. I feel burned out a lot of the time. The thing is, I do very short format videos. I have a lot of shorts and clips of 30 seconds. So when I record an episode, for example, a map, that usually yields 3 videos, like a 10-minute long playback, and then 2 more 30-second videos of funny moments. So if I do that for a while, at the end of the month, if I have a good month, I have like 30 videos that are private on my channel waiting to be uploaded on the coming month.
Okay.
And only my patrons have access to that. So that's what I do. And then every day at 4 p.m. I just log in, I publish a video, whatever, I pick one, and I carry on. I
Nice.
think it was 2 weeks ago I had 42 videos unpublished,
Wow.
ready to publish. And I haven't been doing a lot of content since then, so now they're down to 20.
Okay, well, it's good that you had a backlog. That gives you time and space to do to
Yeah.
relax a little bit, compress. In my
I think you
case,
should
the
find
way
time to relax and stop no matter what, even if you have to. I don't think
Yeah.
schedules are important. That's what I mean. And I've been very strict and anal about my schedules, and it's I think it's unhealthy, even though I still do
Yeah.
it sometimes. I have to say, I
Right.
really admired the way you're organizing your channel. I wish
Oh,
my
well,
channel
thank you.
was half as organized as yours. I look at your channel and it's like a collection of well thought out reviews of maps, all within the same format with improvements every month. And then I look at mine and it's a mess of swearing and clips and random playthroughs and mods. It's chaos
Well-
versus order.
I guess. I mean, the trade-off for me was that in the first year of my channel, I had like 20 videos in the whole thing. It was easy for people to run out. At this point, I have, after 2 years of work, finally accrued enough content to make it look like a full thing you can dive
Yeah.
into.
Yeah.
I think also the uniformity of you get Dean of Doom and pretty much nothing else on my channel is a bit of a detriment. I do see where I think I'm a fan of its organizedness as well. Don't get me wrong, but the Dean of Doom formula is a little constricting sometimes. Not so much the formula itself, but more like I'm a chicken about branching out and trying new stuff sometimes. So
I don't agree with you at all. I don't think it's a detriment to have a single format in a channel. I think it's a plus.
okay,
And judging by the amount of views that you get on each upload, I think it's working well for you. And this is based on my
agree too.
experience. Based on my experience looking at other channels. The other day, I found I rediscovered a channel that I used to watch many years ago. You might know who that is. It's The Escapist. It's a British
Yes,
guy
I've
that
heard
does reviews of video games with a yellow background thumbnail videos. He's really funny. He does fun reviews of games, and I've used to watch that channel. And now they have like 1 million subscribers at this point. They've grew quite a bit.
is this the guy who does is Zero Punctuation? Is that his series?
Exactly. Really good.
Oh yeah.
And
Really
if you look at the channel now, they have 1 million subscribers, and they publish a video of something else. It's not the Zero Punctuation series. And after like a week or two, they have maybe 10,000 views or less.
Oh.
Sometimes 1,000 views
Oh jeez.
out of a
Okay.
channel with 1 million subscribers. And I don't know why exactly. I have some theories. And then other series which are good as well, and then other random videos of interviews, and it's also very chaotic. So when people subscribe to that channel, they are expecting the Zero Punctuation series, and then they get recommended other things, and they don't watch.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
so I think that's a very strong argument to keeping a format, much like you are doing, like keeping a consistent channel with a single format, which is very restricting because sometimes you want to do other things, right? You want to try other formats, and you might pollute your own channel with it. And creating a second channel, well, it was hard enough already to grow one, let alone two, right?
Yeah.
It's not easy.
Yeah.
I feel
my
the same
second
way.
channel
Like,
right now is Essentially, sorry, my second channel is really nothing right now, and I'm very cognizant of like. I do. It started way back after my season 2 graduation. It's just the MtPain project. It's It's got nothing to do with Doom, and I am everything I do on MtPain27 will be Doom or video game related for sure. I do not want to dilute the brand.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically I'm okay with like little to no result on the second channel, so long as it exists and is being slowly added to. What do you call it? Calibrating your expectations with regards to growth is critical to your mental health as a content creator.
I think you can include that because I think it was an interesting conversation, even though you were not here. Sorry for not waiting, Doomkid.
No, it's fine. I just wanted to make sure.
Totally.
I didn't want to have anything in the recording you guys didn't like, in case you said anything while I was out that was, that was just more casual or whatever. I'll keep it all in.
No, we said some bad things about you, but I want that to be in the video, of course.
Oh yeah. The Doomkid slander, well, you have to keep that if you keep the other part.
Yeah.
All the crap you guys were talking. Okay, I'll hear it when it comes out. Whenever this goes live in a week or so.
Yeah.
I know you guys are probably saying some truly horrible things about me.
Par for the course.
Oh, it's all right. I'm used to. I actually, what I did just then was I went and switched to my mobile internet, and oh my god, the difference it makes is incredible.
Oh, good. Finally, be a fair fight. Somewhat.
Wait, your mobile internet is better than your landline?
Yeah. That's, I know it's crazy, but
what?
It smoothed it out quite a bit.
No, the toilets flush in the other direction down there too.
Oh yeah, it's magnetism. I understand now.
It's Australia. Yeah, everything's upside down in Australia and backwards.
Fucking internet. How does that work? I don't want to speak to a scientist. Motherfuckers lying and getting me pissed,
I don't get the reference.
Oh, there was that group ICP who had that song "Miracles" years ago that was just memed to oblivion. I never got over how silly and funny that song was. But yeah, no, there's a lot of crazy things with Australian internet. Any people who are like see this who are in Australia will immediately know, like, yep, mobile internet being faster than landline. Yep, that's one of those things.
I'm proud of Nirvana for running his podcast from Australia. He didn't have any kind of connection issues. I was the one who sounded bad on his recording. I guess my voice is traveling across the Pacific, so all things considered, pretty good. But he's a brave soul to try to run a phone call based podcast from Australia.
I will say, as terrible as my landline was while we were playing Deathmatch, your voices were both coming through very clearly the whole time, so at least it was managing that.
That is the critical part. Doomkid and I joke off screen a fair bit about how irrelevant the actual footage is in these, and how the conversations are clearly the bread and butter of this little mini series we have.
That's right.
Yeah, it's true, but it's good to have something in the background still.
Oh yeah, no, I agree.
Just some general Doom
I've won
action
every
and
single
sound
one of these
effects.
death matches.
Yeah.
I want it on the. I just want to note that I've won every single one of these rounds, so that's a first.
Oh yeah, well, when you see the footage, MtPain, I was actually worried. I was like, I wonder if people will see how laggy this is, and that'll put them off. But of course, as MtPain said, it's really just like we're fulfilling the need to see like moving colors and pictures and hear Doomy sounds like in the background while talking. That's a good thing about Nirvana's podcast, though, that because it's really focused in a way that the Chat N Frags are a little more sporadic. But I like that sporadic. It's fun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think both formats work.
Oh yeah, definitely. They both have their own benefits.
I still haven't watched the Decino interview. I know it was up, but I hadn't had the time. I watched the first 10 minutes and then I had something to do.
Definitely worth a listen. I actually was surprised by how much of the stuff I'd already heard, either directly from him in other contexts or like in his explanatory videos. Nirvana's a great interviewer. He always digs up interesting factoids and elicits good natural responses from people. He does his research, and I think he's definitely the greatest Doom podcast already that has ever been.
Oh, look, in the regularity he does it with, too. You know, MtPain and I just, like, fart around and do our Chat N Frags once every 2 months or so. Nirvana has guests on regularly and just has a whole little intro jingle and everything. If you want to actually, like, if you want a much more refined, refined's not even the right word, a much more polished experience, then the Chat N Frag is more just like the crazy after hours vibe.
The word you're looking for is better experience. Go to Nirvana's. But no, yeah, he's I don't know. I just think he's several podcasts ahead. He told me when he interviewed me that he had a backlog. So I'm sure he's still making them, but he's also putting them out regularly because he's planning ahead. But yeah, I think his questions, he's like what do you call? He's like the hot ones of Doom interviewers.
That's
a good way of putting it. I like that.
Casually stealing your identity.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure, man.
We were talking about earlier. I think you weren't here. I'm not sure how much of it you listened, but what is your take on having a YouTube channel with a single video format and one series that is consistent on the entire channel, versus having a channel where you pretty much do what you want and experiment with different formats and a bit more chaotic? What's your take on that?
You know, personally, what I do, I've actually fallen into I still have a bit of a variety channel in terms of what I upload, but I do like, I think I heard briefly, I wasn't actually in the room, but I heard you saying that MtPain has a really uniform look on his actual channel, like in his Doom channel. And not the MtPain project, of course, which is a secondary channel, which isn't exactly sporadic, but it's not as uniform as his Doom one. For me, I like having all the like a variety of content on there. Like, I have things that's like not even Doom related on my channel now. It's been a while, but I had like Mario related stuff because I was big into Mario for a long time as well. And so, and all sorts of different formats, like sometimes just, a simple recording of gameplay, sometimes a more scripted video. I really like it feels like there's a little something for everybody. Like, if you're a Doom fan, then you'll find at least a handful of videos I've made. Even if my more long-form content isn't to someone's liking or something, you're casting a wider net almost, it feels like. Whereas with MtPain's approach, it does look a lot better. And I think it leads to probably like higher views per video, if we want to talk about it from the analytic perspective, because it's like, it becomes a series, right? Whereas like I could have a bit of a series running on my channel, but it sort of muddies the water. Some people might not have notifications turned on, for example, because they only like 20% of what I upload. But it's give and take, but I definitely prefer the sort of smorgasbord approach.
So, I mean, my take I wanted Dean of Doom to be almost exactly like an HBO or Amazon or Netflix show. I wanted, when it came out, for viewers to have something to binge. I wanted them to not have a craving for another episode if they only have one to watch in the beginning. So I think that one of the best decisions I made with the show was opening with 5. I mean, it was 4 were uploaded on one day, and then the next episode was uploaded the next day, and that's when people flooded in from the casino. So I think I did that right, for sure.
I didn't know you started like that. That's really clever, actually.
Yeah, I worked for about 2 full months, I would say, on the first 5 episodes. And then released them, and then when just recommended people, they had TNT to watch and the other opening episodes. So I think I did that right, like I said. But I was telling Coincident that I kind of pine to do other stuff, Doom related, like within the same theme, but and not like a constant stream of different stuff, but like a one thing I rely on. The Moneymaker series is Dean of Doom, and will continue to be for the foreseeable future. But I kind of want to do video essay topics, and I have at least one short form documentary subject that I really, really want to do before Dean of Doom's run ends. Like, I don't want to be like hanging in the wind when the show is over. I would like to establish that I do other Doom related stuff before that, and then transition gracefully. that would be ideal. I do think, though, I think Coincident and I are in agreement that having a relatively recognizable brand and thing you're known for is not only important, but helps you get content out consistently. I know it helps Athena Doom to have a system that I write a script, I record the footage as I write, or I record the footage as I write the script, and then I record the narration and I edit. And that's how I can assembly line that pretty quickly, especially nowadays that I have a couple of scripts stockpiled. And yeah, I'm gonna shut up because I'm getting killed a lot. And
no, it's interesting to hear.
Talking. I enjoy killing you and hearing you.
That's romantic. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it was really interesting listening to you talk about pain, quote unquote. Secretly, I just want to frag you, but yeah, no, it was really cool. You were talking about the difference between sort of more focused content and more sporadic content. I know you do a mix of, you've done like long form live streams, you do small clips of content, and I heard you say you do have a backlog of between 20 and 40 videos at any time that you're ready to put
out. Oh, no, not at any time. I did have that at a certain point where I produced a lot of videos and content, and I worked a lot of hours to get all of that done because I was motivated, I don't know. And then that number has been reducing, but it's not at all times. Yeah, so my channel, it's a bit more chaotic. I think it's a bit like yours, Doomkid. No insult intended at all. But I experiment with a lot of formats, and it ends up being a mixed bag of many series and many experiences, and even many games, not just Doom. I have lots of Portal, Left 4 Dead, Grim Dawn, and other games.
Yeah, no, I have seen some of your Portal clips that you post as well, actually, because I also like Portal. I'm not, obviously, for me, Doom's my main love, but that's another one of those games that I was into for a while.
Yeah, Portal is amazing. But I think ultimately it benefits you more in terms of YouTube views and algorithm. It benefits you more to have a consistent channel, a bit like MtPain does.
I can actually confirm that, because there was a period where my videos would sometimes get as low as like 500 views, sometimes as high as like 8,000 or 9,000, just almost seemingly randomly. But then I had a streak where I uploaded like 5 or 6 scripted videos back to back with only about like a week or two between each one. And during that period, I got like 20,000 to 30,000 views every upload regularly. And then I went back to my like random smorgasbord style where I was posting some Midis and a 10-minute video of me playing some WAD and stuff. And the views went right back down to like 1,000 or even like 800 or 900, which is fine. Like, that's enough to get by on if you upload regularly, which I do. But it was still like proven to me that a uniform thumbnail style and uniform topics, like uploaded with a relatively regularly schedule, YouTube definitely pays that back. You know what I mean? Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, don't sell yourself short, Doomkid. Your videos that are scripted and edited are high quality. And I think people reward the effort as well. Like, I try not to think too much about the algorithm, and I try to focus on, like, did I do a good job? Did I do as good a job as I could? I never feel like I have been inadequately rewarded for the amount of work I did on a video that I feel like I genuinely did a lot of work on. So I feel like if you like these Chat N Frags are fun to do, but let's be honest, they don't take a ton of work, as opposed to some of my favorite videos of yours, your pics of WADs in the 90s with your anecdotes about your childhood experiences with them are phenomenal. I love those. Your tutorial videos are helpful, genuinely well put together, and I don't know. I think that what I'm trying to say is that you clearly put a lot of effort into those videos. They're hard to make, and it's hard to make them. Believe me, I know it's hard to make them with any amount of regularity. But that's not just the algorithm liking your thumbnail, that's the audience liking what you do. Right.
Yeah, I think it's for me, it would probably be a combination of the two, really. Like, the algo sees the common thumbnail and spreads it to people, but at the same time, because I'm actually putting effort in, and it's a written script rather than just sort of rambling off the cuff, which is what. It's funny though, because I'm okay with the difference in views. Like, obviously, the more views will generate more revenue, which is always nice. Like, YouTube's not my main source of revenue, but it's really helpful on the side. You know what I mean? And it's, I don't know. There's something that about the lower views videos. I almost you develop a tiny community in its own right, where like those 100 people who like the playthroughs, like 50 to 100 likes, they're the ones who always sort of comment on the videos as well. And I see them commenting regularly, and I get, because I was talking about how I did love the social aspect of the Doom community earlier. So it's like the bigger videos, I get all sorts of random comments, and like the small core audience might not even comment on those ones. Whereas the small, like, little streams or recording sessions, those are the ones where you get a different, it's a different vibe in its own enjoyable way when you have those, like, smaller circle bits of content, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's very true.
Sure. Well, I have a suggestion for you, Doomkid, for a series idea, because I've heard so many good stories from you about the Doom community at large. Not mostly just good stories or interesting stories that I kind of wish were like that you could share with everybody. I would like you to do a series called Story Time with Doomkid, where you talk about just like various anecdotes that that you've been a part of or witnessed in the Doom community in all your years. Because you've got the long white beard in the community and lots of tales to tell by the campfire.
Not just in the community. Look in the mirror, there's plenty of white hairs in that beard.
Fair enough. I wasn't actually poking fun at your age, just your tenure.
No, I know.
Yeah, no, I think
You're not the only one.
I think the videos become easier to script if you don't have to do as much like research or whatever. And I think if you have a large body of experience to draw from, and if you just sat down with a Word doc and talked about your time with Doom, I think you could win a lot of people over.
No, that's a great idea. I love good ideas like that. I'll note it down for when I do get back into like my preferring to make scripted stuff, because for me this thing's come in waves as well. Like, I'll have a year or two where WOD making is my main driving force when it comes to Doom stuff. Then I'll have a year or two where scripted videos on YouTube is like my main thing. And then for this last year or two, playthroughs have been like my main thing. So it's fun. I really, that's one thing I actually love about, we were talking about how technology has like availed us to the ability to do streams and broadcasts and things like that. And Doom really gives you a thing. Even if you start feeling exhausted on one front, there's always another front. Like if I got exhausted with everything else, I could still compose music and be releasing MIDI files for people to use in WADs. So it's such a multifaceted creative outlet. That's one thing I really do love about it.
I totally agree. I wish I knew how to make MIDI. I wish I knew how to work the tools and everything else. I'm not sure I even have the time or patience to start learning that now, but I think that's a really cool thing to know how to make a MIDI, a good sounding MIDI track.
Do you play any instruments or anything like that, Coincident?
I used to play the piano.
Oh, okay.
That's perfect.
A while.
Most of MIDI creation is looking at notes on the piano and kind of placing them, and picking instruments that you can turn them into.
I know MtPain has actually recently started making a bit of a foray into MIDI composing and stuff, after mostly being a guitar playing musician and singer and stuff along those lines. It's fun. It's actually very difficult though, because for me, like, when it comes to performing music and doing musical things, what comes naturally to me is playing guitar, and to a slightly lesser degree, like, I don't play nearly that often at all, but I do like playing piano, and drums are also like my secondary instrument. And yeah, it's there's one thing like knowing the music theory in your head and then actually just jamming out on the guitar and it sounding all right, versus programming those notes down into a piano roll. Not to discourage you or anyone, of course, like, it's super fun, but at the same time there is an extra layer of difficulty on top of just performing. Although there's other musicians who have told me they don't know how to play any instruments and they just came to understand music through composing in MIDI. So yeah, it's an interesting
famously states Cena famously has stated multiple times that he just places notes, which I have a hard time. I mean, I believe him, but I have a hard time believing him because of how. I just particularly his No Rest for the Living MIDI is just beautiful.
He must have been one of those people who started out, or maybe not, but you know,
He used to play guitar. He's not like musically illiterate, but in terms of music theory, he's not like a student of music.
All
Right.
those things are not exclusive. I used to play the piano, and I'm pretty much music illiterate. I mean, I did take some classes of music theory, but I'm extremely bad at note reading. I was when I was learning a new piece on the piano, I used to put my finger on top of the sheet and count the number of lines down to, well, we call it do, but I think it's something different in American. I think it's C.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's the
See?
solfege versus
Yeah.
the better notation.
Yeah, I don't even know that.
So wait,
Yeah, I used to read one note every 30 seconds, maybe more. So I would take extremely long time to learn a piece, and then I would just memorize everything and play it by head.
Well, you and me are the same. Like I can't read music at all. I have to what do you call it, sound out my music if I saw it on a
Oh
a
yeah,
sheet.
that too. Yeah.
However, I do know a bit about composition, a little bit about music theory, and what chords sound good together. So like when I write stuff out on paper, I do charts, which are basically just like for this number of beats, play this chord. And then like the melody, I usually just improvise or memorize. So it's definitely I'm no. I may have. Well, I mean, I think Doomkid is the most actual musical knowledge in this chat. But
it's funny.
I'm in a similar boat as you. Don't feel this like it's impossible to get into MIDI though from that vantage point.
It's funny, like I knew that obviously that like Western music, like the 12 tones in a is sort of like, I knew there was other varieties of music, like there was Middle Eastern music that had a completely different theory and set of rules, or at least maybe not completely different, but it deviated a lot. And it's funny just hearing Coincident say that something C, what was the word for it? Was do, was it? Oh, like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la?
Do, re, mi. Yeah, exactly. That's what we use
Yeah.
Here in Portugal, at least. I think in the majority
I mean,
of
that's not
European
that's still the Western like 12-tone scale. It's just a different naming convention for the notes in the scale.
Right.
Okay.
It was funny because when I first heard him say do was C, I was like, holy crap, like maybe
Do
it's-
from The Simpsons?
Oh man. Yeah,
Oh,
at first I was
deer, a
just
female
thinking
deer.
like, oh sorry, what was that?
Oh, I just said doe, a deer, a female deer.
Right.
Ray, a drop of golden sun.
I had to actually say it out loud to make the connection that that's what he was referring to. Oh man. This map is really chaotic and tiny, by the way. I do like it.
I like this map.
That's a good one.
That's one thing that's cool about Deathmatch as well. As a mapper for Doom, I definitely don't think Deathmatch mapping is easier, because if you make it lazily, you just go, oh, Deathmatch maps are small, and you put the guns wherever and the spawns wherever. It's gonna suck to play, you know what I mean? But it's more manageable because you have to literally lay just less square footing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's making a little map like this would only take about 6 hours. You know what I mean? And or maybe even less for a very fast mapper. And that's one thing that's really cool about Deathmatch. Like I made like over the course of 2 years, I made like 60 maps or so when I was in my most hardcore Deathmatch phase. And with single player mapping, after like 3 or 4 maps, it can feel like, whew, making all those line defs in that huge area. Just that was one of the fun things. One thing that I really enjoyed watching, probably over a year ago now, was Coincidence playing Bourgeois Deathmatch.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I forgot about that.
That was a lot of fun to play.
That was really cool too, because that was my buddy Decay. That was really his baby. But I did have a big hand in that WOD, and it was really fun. Just you'd create these nice little compact deathmatch maps, and then you'd have to make the alternate versions for single player. You'd only have to make some small alterations, add a few corridors, put some keys, wall off a few other areas. The translation of deathmatch maps to single-player maps, I think, really worked to that WOD's advantage, because it made all these short little 5-minute burst maps that were, even when they were difficult, they were pretty thrilling to get through. And I feel like it's funny, I know Alien Vendetta is a classic, and I'm not trying to talk bad on it, but the thought of the
second... About to talk bad on it.
But, well, the second half just sounds like... It just seems like such a slog. I've been watching Sandwedge play through it, and there's sections where it's like, man, this map would have benefited from brevity, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but, I mean, it also began the trend of, I think Doom 2, TNT, and Plutonia all have relatively weak endings. They all kind of, well, yeah, I would say Doom 2 gets weird and experimental. TNT completely falls on its face with very few exceptions. And Plutonia, more or less the same thing all the way through and barely changes its formula. With the exception of map 29, which is extra long and difficult. Alien Vendetta attempts to keep the standard of excellence and drama. It attempts to keep that on an upward trajectory. So, of course, the maps get longer and more dark. And
that was an ass whooping, by the way. Just to cut you off, MtPain.
Yeah, it was.
Well played.
I like that map very much.
But anyway, what I'm trying to in Alien Vendetta's defense, no one was making Sandwedge or anybody who plays Alien Vendetta sit down and beat the whole WOD, especially maps 20 through or 25 through 30 in one sitting. That's torture. No one would try to beat Sunder in one day. So pace yourself and take some responsibility for how you play, I guess is what I'm saying.
Right.
And also respect the classics, and that Cloud is annoying me. Old man shouts at Cloud.
It's funny, because I like having MtPain have his old man shouts at Cloud moment, because I kind of felt that way at moments when he was being a little harsh on Memento Mori. So now it's now he's on the other side of the fence for Alien Vendetta. But at the same time...
the difference between Alien Vendetta and Memento Mori is... the year that Alien Vendetta came out had a 2 in front of it, so...
Well, that's really technical, because a lot of Alien Vendetta's work was actually done in the late 90s. But at the same time, Alien Vendetta's levels are definitely more logical than Memento Mori's. So,
joking. It's one of those, I'm just giving you more fodder for your theory that I'm a wadist against 90s wads.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's right. Alien Vendetta came from the 2000s, therefore it's good. But in all seriousness, though, there was the Sandwedge, his playing a lot of it. He wasn't complaining about Alien Vendetta, really. He said it was a bit of a slog, but he wasn't, ripping into it or anything. But even as I was watching him, and of course, this is not to say anything against the talented mappers who made it, but gosh, it was a different era. People thought Doom was still going to come to this conclusion really soon, so they had to make things epic and grand as a nice send-off for the game. But then it just kept going, and the epic grandness just kept getting even more epic and grand. And so I sort of developed this theory as a WOD maker and modder of I like to give people bite size or fun size, or at least more digestible stuff. If that makes any sense.
Okay, well then I have to ask then, Doomkid, why did you participate in Akaldama, which is, in recent memory, the kind of most grand, epic, and bloated megawad I've played in a long time?
Akaldama is one of those WODs where, yes, every map does take several lifetimes to complete, but at the same time, it was, that's fun. For me, I don't strictly stick to my bite-size thing. It's just a general guideline to go by. Yeah. I do love to have, sometimes, THT, some of those maps were a little longer as well. And,
that's actually a really well-paced megawad, or almost a semi-megawad, because it's really long in the middle. Macadon's map is huge. But then it kind of slows down and gets more bite-sized. There's a couple at the end that are too long, but overall, I think the pacing of that mod is great. And your maps are pretty small.
Actually, Coincident, I'm curious. Do you have any like favorite like map sets? Like I know that we were talking about some mods and stuff earlier, but like, are there any like map sets you've played through, or even just chunks of map sets? It doesn't have to be the whole thing. I have WADs that I loved for years that I've never actually properly beaten. But is there any that come to mind when you think of ones that have like stuck out to you?
Yeah, I was just listening to you talking about Akeldam and the others, and I was like thinking, oh, I wish I had played this. I wish I had played that. When I think about it, I feel like my repertoire of Doom maps that I've played is very, very small. And that's something that I regret. My speed of exploring new maps and publishing content for it is very low. Anyway, answering your question, Doomkid, my favorite... that's a tricky one.
Yeah, it's not an easy well, you know, some people have you know, are just know right off the top. Other times you have to think, you know. Even if someone asks me like my favorite, I could name some WADs I like right now. But I don't know if I could pick like what I would call favorites.
One.
Yeah, there isn't just one
I can
really.
probably pick 3. Would the top 3 work?
Yeah, no, just any any WADs that have stood out to you. I'd love to hear them.
Top 3 that I've played. So excluding WADs that I've seen other people play on videos and I want to play them, I'm not counting those, but that I've played, I think top 3 would be Going Down, Valiant, and Alien Vendetta. Not in any order,
Nice.
so all of those are tied first place for me.
All great picks.
I feel like I'm forgetting something. No, Plutonia 2 was good, but not
Sunlust?
top 3. Sunlust was very good. Probably a solid 4th place though. Sunlust was extremely good for the challenge, but I felt it was like a heavy hardcore experience, whereas the other 3 played more casually, and that makes me feel better about them somehow. Even though in terms of content creation and my viewership in the YouTube channel and Twitch as well, Sunlust was clearly number 1 and puts everything on the side. But for my enjoyment, the other 3 are at the top.
Right.
I respect you for saying that. That's not easy to say that your most popular, you know, content medium is not the favorite thing you've played. I respect that a lot.
Yeah, like, and also the picks make sense though. Those are all really good ones.
Yeah, great picks, definitely.
You know, actually, I don't think I've actually fully completed in single player with no cheats and not just, you know, loafing around in a multiplayer server. I don't think I've actually I know I haven't beaten Alien Vendetta in full properly. I've only gotten about halfway when it comes to a legitimate playthrough. I know with Valiant, gosh, I don't know. I think I've loaded it up once just to like check it out, but I haven't played that properly. So that's definitely due for a playthrough on my channel. So that feeling you were getting, Coincident, of oh god, I wish I had played those. Don't worry, like I was getting it as well on my end. There was
yeah. I was thinking about
the way I am. All right, go ahead. Coincident.
Sorry, I was thinking about the other day, and I came to a conclusion in my mind that at this point, the amount of challenges and Doom content that exists on the planet might be infinite. And I don't mean mathematically infinite, because that's not possible. I mean humanly infinite. Like, if you try to play all the maps that exist within the community and try to do some challenges on them, I don't even mean speedrunning, I mean just trying to survive with not a lot of saves or in ultra-violence difficulty, I think you could go a lifetime playing Doom before, well, either you get bored of it or you die of old age. Because there is always, there's no real infinity from a mathematical point of view, but there's an infinity from the human point of view, where we realize, well, we only have so many years to live. How much can I do with my life, and how many things I enjoy, like gaming, etc.? How much can I do within the time that I have? And if the amount of content that you bring to the world is beyond that limit, then you can consider it to be infinite.
yeah.
So some say that Doom is eternal, I say that Doom is infinite.
That's a really
excellent tagline,
dude. I think that's a great way of putting it too, because I actually wanted to just like try to scratch the surface of that infinite amount of Doom that there is out there to be experienced, because like I spent so many years playing WoDs fairly regularly and playing in multiplayer, but spending a vast majority of the time actually mapping or doing modding things, to the point where when I thought of Doom, playing Doom was only one slice of the pie for a while there. Like I did only fairly little playing, and I realized that like, look, I've made a huge backlog of WoDs at this point. At this point, a fair number of them are liked and people know of them and enjoy them, and that's good. Like I've ticked that box, and I realized that like once my current WoDs wrap up, I always say this by the way, once my current WoD wraps up, I'll focus more on playing, and then I start a new project. But still, I feel like I'm finally at the point now where I truly do want to, because playing some of these WoDs, and you don't have to play them fully to completion to know, like Alien Vendetta, I don't know if I'll beat it, because, you know, there's other shorter, more bite-sized WoDs out there that I want to play. And I don't want to, you know, because there's just so much to choose from, limiting yourself to something that is not, you know, necessarily fully your cup of tea, doesn't make that much sense when there's so much out there to try. Like Valiant, I've never even given that like the old college try in single player, and yet I've heard such good things about it. So, and that's only one of many examples. Sunlust is another WoD that I've really only played in multiplayer servers, and because there's so many enemies, it's awesome for huge co-op battles and stuff. That's what I was you know, I really do enjoy that about it. But you know, it's cool. There's just so much out there, and I feel like at a point I'm finally content with the amount of levels I've made, being like over 200, and I need to actually experience some of this before I hit the grave. Like, there's so much Doom out there. I better get at least some of it under my belt.
You better hurry up, because
Yeah.
you're about to hit the grave, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh dear God.
So you're still Doomkid, and you just hit 30, man. Life is just starting.
Well,
It's just starting for all of us.
well, once you're in your 30s, that's it. You're basically dead, you know.
Yep.
That's like my sense of humor right there.
Been dead for a while.
And
Not to pry coincident, but
yeah.
how old are you, if you don't mind my asking?
Oh. Well, I'm going to answer you the way I answer my colleagues at work, which I think is the best way to answer that question. I'm Arkanoid years old.
Arkanoid.
Oh,
I'll have to look that up later.
so Arkanoid, as in perhaps maybe, I think what Coincident's getting at, MtPain, the same age as the game Arkanoid.
Exactly.
Oh, I don't even know. I'm unfamiliar with the reference.
I believe it's
Okay.
from roughly 1980.
Arkanoid, do you know Pong, right? You have two sliders on left and right and a ball in the middle. Arkanoid was the one that you controlled a slider on the top of the screen, and there was a ball going up, destroying tiles, and you got power-ups.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's a great answer, Coincident. So people
That
really
was
want to know.
1986.
When you said Arkanoid, it's so hilarious. The first thing that came to mind was Asteroids, actually.
Also a very good game, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. It's funny, like, Asteroids, everyone's heard the whole, like, Auto Map was meant to have Asteroids trivia. But honestly, the thing that really grinded me was when people said Doom's gameplay was just like Asteroids because it's bird's eye view. It's like, yeah, look.
The triangle. It's because the triangle sprites.
They were
and-
playing
yeah,
with the map open all the time.
Yeah.
Well, Doom is
Yeah, so that's,
famously only 2D, you know. Only there's no Z-axis in here.
Oh dear. Don't get me started on that one. Anyway, that's the mnemonic I use for remembering people's birthdays. For example, I
Nice.
know that my significant other is Wolfenstein 3D years old, so I never
nice.
lose track of her age. And she sometimes watches the videos that I'm on, so I can only hope that she doesn't watch until this point, so I don't get into trouble.
No, it's okay. As a fellow Wolfenstein 3D years old person, I can relate.
Oh, nice.
So okay, well mine is it's quite easy to remember because I'm due 95.
Oh, right. So we all have great games that's attached to our birth years, at the very least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that was snarky. I can't think of an actual like distinct game that came out in '95.
Oh, so you're not.
Oh,
for
there
some
surely
reason,
is one.
I
I
was
know.
the ultimate Doom. I mean, heck, that's an easy one to go with right there.
Oh, I guess that did come out in '95. Well, there you go.
For
My
some
flesh
reason,
consumed.
96. I was kind of like hoping. I knew somewhere in the back of my mind that it wasn't 96. But Final Doom, you being the same age as Final Doom, would be perfect considering your love of TNT and the MtPain. You know what I mean?
There's
would.
another
It
good suggestion for you for 95, which is Command and Conquer. You can pick that.
Ah, yes.
Amazing
I heard a lot
game.
of great Command and Conquer music
Yeah.
in Doom WADs.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Frank Kalepi. I can't remember the pronunciation, but he's a great musician.
Or Kalepi?
Klepaki.
Is it Klepeki?
Something.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing
pronounce.
tunes. This is, you know what, the second half here has actually been much better for me ever since I switched Internet Void. It's so much smoother.
Right, and I have not won a match since I said I've won all the matches, so that's karma.
Coincident and I have just been passing the wins back and forth since you made that remark. That's just perfect. That's how it always works out, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
As
See,
soon as
I'm also letting you guys catch up because that's only the job.
All right, of course. He's going soft. He's saying, "Look, I feel bad for just being so flexing my deathmatch pro skills so hard on you guys."
Right. Mad skills.
So I can see that the SSG is the #1 pick on most deathmatch games, except if there's a BFG, maybe.
Yeah, that's true. It's always it's always the race between the SSG and BFG. In fact, I'm glad that you mentioned that, Coincident, because that's one thing that Decay was always, well, really, there's actually a number of people who thought that, while Doom's weapon balance is really good, especially for how old it is, the SSG and BFG always do rise to the top. Plasma Gun is also pretty good, other than in really open areas. But in Bourgeois...
Rocket Launcher's great for busy games. I know that.
Oh, a big free-for-all with tons of people around? The rocket launcher is a great choice. But with just, it's funny, with Bourgeois, we did... We actually adjusted the pistol and the chain gun to be a little more fast, and the single barrel as well. Because the chain gun and single barrel just always play second fiddle to the SSG. Unless you're in a really large map and you need accuracy, but that's not often the case in Deathmatch, And so, yeah, we actually specifically went out of our way to make the chain gun and single barrel more powerful, so the SSG stole less of the screen time.
I love the weapon balance of Bourgeois.
I'm glad to hear it.
I
I'm
like
glad.
about it.
The chain gun, it's funny, between having the souped up chain gun and single barrel and such small arenas in the first place, you really can just chew through that pretty quickly. When we first did a few of our recorded death matches, we played on Zandronum. And I thought it was cool because on Zandronum we had custom skins, which you don't have on Otomex. And also there was other weapon mods that run on Zandronum that don't. But I'm kind of glad because it's Otomex retains that classic feel, so it's really cool in that regard. I do, even though I like altering the weapon balance and stuff and playing with mods that change it, I do think that for how old it is, especially the vanilla balance was damn good.
Yeah, that's.
I think
true.
Otomex is far and away the best deathmatch experience I've had. And I've had some really enjoyable Xandro games, but they get too crazy with the more stuff you add to them, and the more, especially people have. Oh my God! Here's a little story from last summer. I was deathmatching very frequently last summer on Xandronum, and there were these games. I think it was Friday Night Firefight, where there were a couple regulars, and I became one of them for 3 months. They went through a phase where they. Anime it is, but there's some kind of anime creature where it's this colorful fairy girl thing that plays at an incredibly annoying da 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 ba 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 ba. Whenever it dies.
In one of the Zandronum servers that has all the funny, hilarious. One of the dude, those are so funny.
You can call it I wouldn't call it funny. Like when 9 people were the little fairy creature and dying over and over again, and just oh my god, dude! Like they're harder to hit because they're like a little bit smaller and they're an odd shape. But the musical the shrill singing upon every death just got so old.
Yeah, that's
I
when
don't miss that at all.
That's when the turn off custom skins button becomes very useful.
I didn't even know that existed.
No, of course. This is when you were newer to it at the time as well. But yeah, I just like one thing that's funny. Just to go on a little rant actually about Doom skins. I know that some people think that they're pointless, and I guess they kind of are. But in a public deathmatch, I like to just use like Doom Guy variant skins. So like maybe a person can set their sprite to look like a shotgunner, but instead they have like purple rather than red on the blood. You know what I mean, or whatever. And like, because it's cool. Because in a deathmatch, those sprites are equally visible, but it gives each player a little more identity. Like I've always liked the idea of like customizable HUD faces for the Doom Guy and customizable skins. Now, ones that add too many custom sound effects, and especially annoying ones, those go back all the way like to the early 2000s. There's so many annoying skins, but they're fun for like a 30-second laugh, and then after that, it's over, and you never want to play with it again. And so, skins are one of those, like, they've always been a, like, not so much in recent times, but in the older era of multiplayer dooming, they were a little bit of a touchy issue for some people. I was like, yeah. Oh. Basic Doom Guy variety skins are my favorite because you can have a customized Marine without any of the obnoxious garbage. I'm hoping to convince the Otomex developers to add in at least custom skin support graphically, even if there's no custom sound support. I'd be okay with that.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you know this, Doomkid. I'm not sure how much contemporary the multiplayer games you play. When I was my ex played Apex Legends, was very, very obsessed with Apex Legends, and my brother for a period of time as well. And that so much of that game is you unlock this skin, you unlock this weapon skin, you unlock this keychain for your weapon. So definitely, like, don't think that people underestimate the importance, or what do you call it? People get very excited about skins, and I think they think it's very important to the multiplayer experience. So I think Doom is a little backwards in that way, that some people, that any number of people dislike the customized visuals.
Yeah, it's not just liking it. It's pretty much a market around that, because in most games, I'm not sure about Apex Legends, but in most games, some of the rarest skins you need to pay for them.
That's right. It's a money
transactions. Yeah.
That's one of those beautiful things about Doom. I have the 150 skins, but I want to get it to 200 skins, and I've collected a few extras, but I haven't found any. But it's all just variants on the Marine. Now, some are a little funnier than others. Some like change them all the way into a stormtrooper, and others are just like, you know, a female Marine, or different, you know, just all sorts of different little minor things you can customize just through having a custom skin and a slightly altered HUD face. And the great thing about Doom is you get all that stuff for free. I think that the idea of skins have been soured in the minds of some Doom developers from all those crappy low quality skins MtPain was mentioning earlier. But in reality, I think that there's a huge appeal there for minor variations on like the existing stuff. And you know, you don't have to go as crazy as like Rick and Morty and Goku in Fortnite for it to be fun. It could just be like, hey, my Marine has like golden boots and he wears sunglasses on the HUD. That's cool. Like, especially since there's no weird microtransactions.
We can't just be giving out golden boots to anybody. Like that has to be reserved for the exclusive paying deathmatchers who send the author of the skin $5 a month.
That's right. Yeah, if you sign up,
monthly fees for skins. I mean, it might exist somewhere legitimately. I wouldn't be surprised at this point. It's a whole industry.
It seems almost
and
like...
I don't think it's just for the appeal. I think it taps into people's... I wouldn't say OCD, because it's not actually OCD, but the collectionist aspect of people, like they want to get all the skins or all the skins within a group or something like that, even if they don't use it. Just the feeling of unlocking something, and then the feeling of not doing that. For example, if you're missing out one item from a collection and it's really hard to get, but you can get it by just paying $5, and then they convince people into doing that. I think it's a whole business model. It's interesting from a psychological point of view, even though I kind of despise that from a gaming point of view. But
right, it's they're using group psychology as a marketing, or rather like the fear of oh no, my collection isn't full, like I gotta have that drive. You said OCD, and like you said, it's not quite OCD, but it is a similar compulsion. Like it's gotta be the full collection. And these companies do see that and definitely exploit it. And it's funny because I had someone tell me in my comments the other day, they were like berating me for having like optional, Patreon subscription and like a PayPal tip jar. They were like, oh, what is this? The only reason you make content is for money. It's like, well, no, I enjoy doing it as well. But it's funny because like, people who do what we do, which is like game-related content creation, are getting who are not like strong-arming anything out of anyone, not putting are getting grilled like a
jar.
Yeah, getting grilled for that, while meanwhile the actual some of the most popular games have this pretty insidious model of things like loot and like Coincident was talking, paid skins. So it's funny to me, like some people
or paid actual advantages in the game, like you can only get the BFG if you pay $5 a month. Obviously not in Doom, but there are games who do that, and that's even worse because then people who not play are at an actual disadvantage. That's another business model, which I hate.
The old pay to win.
I might be overstating this. But I actually wouldn't have described the collection, like the completionist element to the skins quest. I would actually have argued that their game companies and whoever is in control of deciding to monetize these skins, I think they prey upon people's need to push themselves, and people live online more than they ever have. Your online persona, the way you present online, is more important than it's ever been. Skins and your physical appearance in the game, your avatar, is like the way you look, being cool and distinctive and unique, is a higher premium than ever. And I think you want to talk about psychology, people needing to look their best on the internet as a little collection of pixels, leveraging that into cash that they're spending on looking okay or looking the way they want to, that's the insidious part for me.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree.
I totally agree too. It's cool because like for me, I'm like I don't berate them over it or constantly ask because I don't want to be annoying. But I have asked the Otimex developers a few times over the years to add skin support in. But for me, it's all because I love the customization. But then it's like, seeing stuff like that preyed on is just reminds you of some of the biggest failings of the gaming industry and standards and practices being kind of a joke at times, I guess is one way you could put it.
Yeah, it's kind of a sign when there's such a boom for retro gameplays and people playing old games, especially on Twitch. Like if you take out the big titles like Apex Legends and maybe Minecraft and a few others that I don't watch much, there's a lot of interest in retro games, and I think it's a sign that there was an age. I'm not sure which age, which years exactly, but there was an age where there were a lot of very, very good games.
Yeah, that's right. And like there was no once you bought the game, you had the game. You didn't have to pay for you unlocked it through playing it rather than through paying for extra stuff. Which I think
when the game was released. It was finished. It didn't need to be, it wasn't the beta that the public was tested and then patched,
It's Doom is funny because it's actually an exception where they did have to patch it a few times after release, but it was always just for like bug fixing. There was never like, hey, like Coincident mentioned, no, pay extra and get the BFG, like any of that silliness. And it's fun.
Are you talking about Doom 1 or Doom 2?
Oh,
or are you talking about Doom 2016?
Oh no, I'm just talking about classic Doom in general, really. Like there was.
When was that? When was that patched and how?
There was okay. So a lot of the old CD and floppy releases are like 1.2, and then there's 1.666, where they were like some of the most common distributions before Ultimate Doom and 1.9 itself, of course. And actually, finding registered Doom 1.9 is actually much harder than finding Ultimate Doom, funny enough. But yeah, there was some bug fixes and stuff done to Doom. Like, if you had 1.2, you still had a functional game. It was not like some broken piece of rubbish. But like 1.666 fixed a few like networking bugs and stuff like that. And you could actually get the patch online for free. There was no monetary incentive there other than making sure the game was polished, you know. And I think what Coincident was mentioning with retro games being pretty popular on Twitch, I know they're popular on YouTube. I think part of that is people pining for an era where, like, sure, you pay for the game, but it's less nagging at your wallet constantly, and you can just focus on the damn game, you know?
Yeah, totally.
Well, my brother's getting into Minecraft. I never got into Minecraft, but I feel like I just missed the boat, and it's not my type of game. When I was a kid, I played Legos constantly. I loved building stuff. I loved customizing little Lego characters and all that stuff. And I think Minecraft is basically just a gigantic box of Legos. That's kind of how Minecraft looks to me. That's kind of like how it appears. Sorry, I'm really losing my words. But I guess it's stripped down to just the essentials. You get blocks to build with. You can do whatever you want. There are enemies that you can mine stuff, you can accumulate, you can use your imagination. It's a less is more a style to video games that allows the viewer to fill in with their imagination rather than doing all the imagining for them, which is what a lot of games do nowadays.
And putting part of that imagining behind a paywall, no less.
Yeah. I know personally, every year I look forward to fall, and especially Halloween. I don't like the dress up or anything like that. I just like the time of year. I like the like how things look, the trees and the decorations and things.
The orange
and
vibe.
I always get excited to do. Yes, I always get excited to do a Halloween special on my channel. You guys have anything special planned for Halloween, or anything even different planned for Halloween?
You know, I don't have anything planned, but it might be a good excuse for like at least attempting some sort of multiplayer event on my end. I don't have anything specific in the oven, but I know I've wanted to do deathmatch related stuff with other Doomtube people and otherwise, so maybe something like that will happen around October for me. Maybe it'll be a good excuse for the theming.
Scary movie Doom, this sort of thing. I know there was a guy in Zandronum actually who always dressed, he had a Jason Nocky mask on.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, definitely. Get some skins going. Get like the Halloween skins going. Yeah, that could be really fun for like a multiplayer event of some kind. Do you do any Halloween stuff? I know Halloween is the biggest of any country in America. MtPain.
Oh, definitely.
Even over here, Halloween is kind of seen as like a joke. You know what I mean? Even though Australia is culturally very similar to America in many ways. How about in Portugal, Quentin? I'm really curious. Like, is Halloween even a thing like that's acknowledged much over there?
I don't think it's definitely not in Portugal. I think it's not a big deal in all of Europe. I'm trying to think maybe the UK they celebrate more Halloween there, but otherwise no, I'm not used to Halloween being a big thing. But even if it was a big deal here in Portugal, I'm not sure I would have anything ready because I'm terrible with those dates. I don't celebrate Halloween, Christmas, not even April Fools. Everybody has an April Fool's video, but I don't because I'm lazy and I don't remember dates.
Oh no, it's not a laziness thing, believe me. Especially because take a look at most April Fool's videos out there. That's what laziness looks like.
Yeah, actually, you know, it's funny. That's true. Doing an April Fool's video may, in fact, be the lazier course of action.
Hold on, because I have actually taken great pains to dispel that notion. I really, really care. I've done absurd amounts of work on my April Fool's videos for Dean of Doom, and I'm very proud of both of them.
Well, you should be. I mean, for a lot of people, it's just an excuse to milk a thing. Like, I've got no ideas, but it's April Fool's. Like,
Well, some of them can be really funny, especially like even the ones that are no effort can be pretty funny.
Yeah.
I think it's a matter of if you're subscribed to a lot of YouTube channels, which I'm actually not. I kind of try to pare back my subscriptions. But if you're subscribed to like 200 channels and you get 50 April Fool's videos in your feed, it's like, please stop. I get the annoyance over it.
yeah, I'm one of those people who probably has too many subscriptions and generally is too far into the YouTube sphere to be considered healthy and normal.
You and me
Yeah,
both,
me
my
too.
friend.
I think I have subscriptions that I've been adding to since, I don't know, maybe 12 years ago. 2010. No, even before that. And I don't really unsubscribe from anything, so they just accumulate. I think that's pretty much what everybody does, right?
Yeah, my subscription list, I gotta admit, has just gotten huger and huger over the years in that same way. Sounds like MtPain is a little more discerning with what he subscribes to, though.
Yeah.
I hate talking about this because I feel weird saying it out loud. Because I'm believe me, I'm not very choosy about what I watch, but I am actually a pretty terrible YouTube viewer. I got to be honest. I don't hit the like button as often as I should. I definitely, well, I mean, I watch a lot of garbage, to be honest. Like not even like Doom garbage, just stuff that I would never consider subscribing to these channels, but the video thumbnails look funny. I watch it for 1 minute and I forget about it. It's yeah, I mean everybody kind of does that.
But are you very
nowadays,
conscious about you subscribing to a channel, and do you like keep your subscription list clean? Which means obviously choosing some channels to unsubscribe sometimes because I don't know, you realize you haven't watched them in a while. Do you take that extra work?
I try to really care about all the channels I'm subscribed to, I would say. That's been a decision that I made since I made Dean of Doom. Channels I want to invest my time in, I subscribe to. There are channels, I think for a long time I wasn't subscribed to Carl Jobst, and I think I did. I may not be. I'm not even sure, because I don't know. I kind of like want to make an effort to watch pretty much every video of every channel that I subscribe to, and I'm miserably failing at that right now, because nowadays I have no time to like. I get from like midnight to 1 o'clock in the morning on weekdays to just kind of watch whatever, and I usually fall asleep in a half hour, and I just accrue this gigantic backlog. Yeah, I haven't been keeping up with most people's stuff. Clearly, like if it's a video that somebody put a lot of effort into, or
cool.
like I guess like I try to make time for like casino analysis videos or things like that. If Doomkid released a scripted video, I'd watch that for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm pretty bad. I'm a pretty bad viewer, and you would not be incorrect calling me kind of snooty and picky about who I subscribe to.
Well, it's funny actually because you mentioned to loop back to a topic we touched on earlier. We talked about more focused content on a channel or more variety content, and also Carl Jobst. Yeah. Like he is I'm subscribed to his channel because I think he's made some great Doom videos. He deserves the increase in sub count for his effort on that, and so I like to watch and like all of his Doom content. But beyond his Doom stuff, I've watched almost none of it, and I just feel like he puts enough work into the channel, and I like it enough to where he deserves that subscriber anyway. But man, I would be lying if I said I'd watched more than 6 or 7 of his videos, the Doom ones, and maybe some of the most important ones about like these classic, because I do a little bit of classic game collecting. I'm not hardcore into it, but I do have like, just over the many years, I've built up like 300 or something cartridges from classic systems. And he did a video on like, there was price gouging going on, and still is. And so that was interesting to me. But I definitely do not watch the vast majority of what he puts out. I don't think it makes you a bad viewer. Honestly, I think you're more diligent. You'd called it snooty, but I think you are a little more it's funny
organized.
That,
really.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's just organization at that point.
Yeah.
And it also
definitely unsubscribed from channels before, though. I have to say, boy oh boy, this is a big admission, but I'm behind it now, and I don't feel shame about it anymore. I did once upon a time have a PewDiePie subscription. It's big of me to come out and say it, but it's been many years since I watched a PewDiePie video. But yes, I was subscribed to PewDiePie back in college, and that's where my YouTube addiction actually really began. But I did unsubscribe from that because like there's a point at which you don't want to watch any more of those. And you do need to forcibly cut yourself off from the sugar intake.
I like referring to it as sugar intake. That's a good way of thinking of taking too much of that kind of content in. It's like having
Don't get
too
me
much
wrong.
sugar.
At that time of my life, those. I mean, I wasn't really like on the internet much prior to college, and being able to just kind of chain watch videos, the way an avid cigarette smoker goes through a pack of cigarettes. That was a new sensation for me, and I was totally hooked. And yeah, that's since then I've become much more moderate and a little more discerning. Not that much more discerning though, because I like Better Call Saul memes, even though I don't watch the show. So,
well, you know, it's funny though, because like when you were talking about how you only subscribe to channels that you like, and you know you unsubscribed from PewDiePie, that can be a thing. I wonder. I would have to assume, this is just an assumption, I don't have anything to back this up really, but like I'd have to assume that most people do similar to what Coincident and I do, where we just build up this ever increasing list. Some people might start a whole new account if they don't have any uploads just to refresh things, but like
yeah,
I think I'd have to think that most people do it that way. And it's funny because there's some channels where even though I only like 10% of what they're doing, I really like that 10%. So I want to give them the subs and likes every now and then. I might even click one of their videos. If it's a YouTuber I really like, just to like help sweeten the algorithm's opinion of them, if it even does it that way, I don't know. But I'll click on some of their videos that I'm not even... Well, yeah. Like, I'll click one. I'll just make sure to give it a like. Like, you know what? This person has 5 videos I really like, but actually... As far as YouTube's concerned, I've given them 8 likes. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I am with my treatment of channels that I at least somewhat enjoy.
I definitely like videos I like. That's for sure.
If it's one,
I don't.
You'll make sure to click.
I don't just generally hand it out. Like that's kind of a job. It becomes a job if you think about it. I thought recently, like. I get somewhere between 150, 250 comments on each video, and like it's a lot of the same people, and like that's actually like a big job for them. It's like a responsibility, and it really ought not be, but like they actually are doing important work, like being the commenters every time. I mean, it must be a core group of maybe 500 people of my 9,000 subscribers or so who comment all the time, and it's like, you know, nobody else is stepping up to the plate. It's just them, and it's usually in the first day, so. I don't know, that's a lot of work.
Well, that's what it is. With the most dedicated people who enjoy stuff, they're also going to be the most likely to give you comments and stuff.
Yeah. That's probably one of the things that I enjoy the most about YouTube, is the comments. And it's not just necessarily the regulars. It's a lot of time the regulars. They send a lot of positive vibes, but also sometimes new people. And I think the kind of comments that I've read on YouTube that have brought me the most joy were people either commenting something technical about what I said or asking a technical question where it clearly shows that they saw and heard the video until the end and paid attention to it, and they're asking like a very clever question or a comment. That makes me so proud. It makes me feel like, wow, I really got my message across. Like I have a good student here. It's a bit condescending, but I mean...
No. I can totally relate to that, because MtPain and I were talking the other day. I don't know if this was on any recording or not, but we were talking about how, like, average view duration, you know, like our average video length is something like 20 minutes, but average view duration might only be 4 minutes. And so that statistic can be a little disheartening when you see it. So when you do receive those comments that make it clear, like, they actually watched, at the very least, almost every minute of the video.
Yeah.
Those ones do feel really... I gotta agree with you completely there, Coincident. Those are arguably the most satisfying ones of all. Like, wow, they liked it so much that they went through the whole thing and actually had something thoughtful to say in response.
I think, at the risk of saying this twice, just in case we did record it elsewhere, my point about the average view duration was that I think it's a really misleading statistic, because there are many times where I open up a video, I go, man, I want to watch this. close it, come back later. YouTube reads that as me giving 2 views and watching the whole thing once, which will compute to an average view time of 50%, which isn't fair. I watched the damn thing once. I opened it twice, but I watched the thing once. So just if you have like 33% average view duration of your videos, that does not mean that people are only watching 10 minutes and then going, screw this, I'm going to turn it off. It's probably that at least half of your viewers are watching the whole thing. Some of them are watching it, over multiple sittings, and a few people are clicking it, going, this isn't for me, and turning it off. But it's definitely not like everybody uniformly watching the first 10 minutes and turning it off.
You're right.
Yeah,
It's
that's
definitely
true.
a misleading statistic.
There's another example to how misleading that is, which is even maybe more obvious than that, which is shorts, which I upload a lot. For example, I upload a 10-minute long video gameplay, and then I have a 30-second short on the next day uploaded. And what the YouTube analytics shows me is that the second video, the short, is not doing well because the average view duration reduced to 40 seconds from 5 minutes or whatever it was before. And I see that metric right next to the video. It says, view duration has reduced to 40 seconds, and the video is 30 seconds long. And I get penalized by that on the algorithm.
It's terrible.
That's one of the problems of mixing different formats of videos in a channel, and another problem.
They actually got worse at that. They used to do it by percentage. They used to do percentage of video viewed. That is how it should be done. And instead, they've gone to this net time, like average time viewed. Like, it's ridiculous, especially since they're trying to incentivize shorter content. It's a bizarre choice.
YouTube's left hand often does not know what the right hand is doing, I've found. Like, there's as much as there's a lot of aspects about the platform that I do love. There's a lot of aspects that bothered me a lot as well. And one of them is like, hey, let's totally, the idea of short videos is fine, but let's rip off TikTok with this shorts format. Oh, shit. And then let's penalize shorter view durations. Yeah, it just makes no sense in the face of it.
Chainsaw kill.
No!
Chainsaw kill.
Oh,
Got him.
MtPain. Damn you. Alright. I see how it is.
Have a saw.
I sawed the Marines. Ugh. Wow, this is actually hard to do.
Whoa. Why'd you guys move so fast?
Damn it.
That's how deathmatch works. We just
I see your
swing around
chainsaws, and I raise you a rocket.
Yeah.
Somebody brought a chainsaw to a rocket launcher duel.
Oh, that's not the way to use it. See, there's me. I talk about my rockets, and then I use them to kill myself. That's.
This recording just got demonetized, Doomkid, because you said kill yourself.
Hey, yeah, speaking of YouTube things,
no.
it automatically heard that combination of words and
Out of context.
Yep.
That's terrible.
You know, I have had things like that happen before, where I had the video where I was talking about how those hanging sprites that people thought were Mussolini were actually G.I. Joes. And because I mentioned Mussolini and, like, the phrase, like, hanging body and stuff, it was like, yo, this is like you're showing gore on stream here, or rather on video here. It was very silly. I got the video got... Yeah, that video can no longer generate ad revenue because it's apparently really edgy, even though I presented it in such a silly and like lighthearted way.
Cino's most popular video had the same thing happen because the Doom's monster sprites, because he has like 5 seconds of footage of a Marine getting disemboweled, and it's fairly gory compared to like Doom's sprites, but it's still cartoon. So like. And also, it was like 2 years after the video came out, so it's completely inexplicable.
Very goofy, very silly standards. And I guess for a platform that's that large, it makes they're gonna have some weird things, but still, that's just so goofy.
It is impossible for humans to run YouTube.
Yeah. If there's one thing that YouTube has proven, it's that it cannot be run. At least not like.
Only like the AIs basically run YouTube, and humans moderate it, but the AI runs it.
Yeah, that's the tricky thing. Like, people mention the algorithm and they talk about the algorithm, but it's not an algorithm. It's an AI. It's artificial intelligence. It's like a machine learning process that tries to optimize people to stay on the platform based on the metrics of every video uploaded. But if you want to talk about the subject, you need to talk about the algorithm. But it's not.
It's fun. Yeah, like that's
It's very weird.
I haven't even questioned it, but that's one of those cases where a label is incorrectly applied and then everyone just rolls with it.
Sure, most people would not know the difference between an algorithm and an AI.
I don't even know. There should be a
If
name.
prompted to define both, I think they would actually. Some people would struggle. I mean, not most people, but a lot of people would struggle.
I don't know if I could even like properly define them, but like Coincident covered it well. Like the AI's ability of like machine learning and sort of collecting data, and you know, an algorithm is just like, I don't know if an algorithm has that same like variable aspect. Like if you have an algorithm, it just is.
An algorithm is like a series of lines of codes, like a person writing an if, else, and a for or while loop.
Yeah.
Like writing a specific fixed behavior that runs the same way every time in lines of code. That's not what's happening with the AI of YouTube. I think they call it the recommendation system. That's the official name of it, but everybody calls it the algorithm.
Right, I see. Oh,
an algorithm would be like an algorithm would be a fixed program or fixed formula, and
exactly.
AI would be something that kind of grows and evolves as it takes in more data.
Yeah, and learns, exactly.
I've definitely seen evidence of that with YouTube too, because like what it benefits over the years has changed, and not just because of like manual changes implemented by the people running it, but because it's like it's actually accruing new data to work with and things along those lines. And yeah, it sees like what people watch more, and then ends up benefiting that. I remember there was a there's been controversies over YouTube's way of doing that over the years. In fact, like people saying it too often rewards what they deem bad content and things like that, you know. So it's
So
yeah.
So Doomkid, what you need to do for this stream is get a thumbnail with some arrows in it and some YouTube logos. Next to all of us, some shocked Doom guy faces, and you need to call the stream. You need to call it Doomkid, MtPain, and Coincident savagely critique YouTube's algorithm.
YouTube destroyed by 3.
Oh, the clickbait! I can already imagine the views.
I was thinking it was more like there would be the circles and red arrows, but it would be like, we interviewed this Doomtuber. You won't believe what happened next. Like,
yeah. Oh man,
the sensationalism.
Like, at least half the time we've talked about YouTube more than we've talked about Doom in this podcast. It's interesting.
Well, hey, you know, it's one thing that we all have in common. We're all frequent Doomtubers, so
absolutely.
That was actually the thing I remember. Like, we sometimes try to come up with the way that we do Chat N Frag's Coincident is we usually ever since getting Jimmy and Endless on, we've decided it's going to be a thing of people who are somewhat known for various contributions through WODs or through content creation, and so I was like, yeah, you were definitely high on my list, because I remembered really enjoying your Bourgeois playthrough and then watching your shorts, which often are hilarious, by the way. Like, some of the moments you capture during Doom gameplay. I've had my fair share of slapstick moments, but I just... The face rocket meme. I love that. I really do love that.
Thank you so much, man. It's an honor to be here with you guys. Thank you very much for the invite, actually.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. The pleasure is all ours.
To you, man. Like I said in the beginning, it's always a joy to speak to people who like Doom as much as we do.
Things around me are probably
I share the same sentiment.
Oh, just so you guys know, things around me are probably going to start getting pretty loud because it's getting further into the day here. More people are waking up and stuff. So after this round, I might end the recording because it's actually been really. We've got almost 2.5 hours, and it's been really.
Yeah,
good.
I was gonna say this seems like a good round to end on.
No, I've definitely enjoyed it. It's been good. I always love hearing like different perspectives too. It's cool. Like a lot of different voices come to the table in the choir of doom.
Yeah. I'm very happy that I'm part of it, even if it's a small part of it.
No, it's cool. I love. Oh, you know what? That's one thing I meant to mention as well. I know you did the video you did the best video explaining the block map. Like,
oh,
right, that's right.
Yeah.
Like to this day, and I feel like that's funny. Like, there's another player, well, he is a player technically, but another Doomtuber named Borog, who's a Russian guy.
Yeah.
He did a great one on why Doom is actually 3D that like surpassed. Mine was me just sort of rambling with a few facts to draw from. He gave a really great demonstration, and I consider his video the equivalent on why Doom is 3D to yours on how the block map works. Very well presented, enjoyable watching. I really like that style. I've tried to get that.
Both given the Decino blessing.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh yeah, that's true.
In fact, I guess the way in which I've been given the Decino blessing is that he contributed to my Mid the Way It Did project. We will have to have him on here at some point.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah. I hope he'll. I mean, I'm sure he'll want to find some time. He's already offered to. When I played Memento Mori with him last October, he said we should get together and play some Doom sometime, just like in a casual context. So I'm sure he'd be cool with that.
Actually,
I'd love to hear you guys talking with Decino in a future episode. I'd definitely watch that.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's very, very likely it might happen at some point. And actually, I want to mention this to Coincident. I don't know if I'll do it, but I had this idea that I talked to MtPain about a few times of having
this is a good time to bring that up. Yeah,
a big sort of like Doomtuber deathmatch tournament thing. It would all be in fun. I think it would be cool to like just have like everyone gets to practice a little bit first, so no one's going in totally rusty. But just have like this sort of elimination style thing. Or maybe we start with like
focused on the gameplay, not Chat N Frag.
Yeah, that's right. Like totally about actually everyone trying, and maybe even could do like team things. Like people get grouped into teams of 2, or it could be one-on-one elimination.
That sounds like a great idea. You have to do that. That sounds awesome.
Been telling him that for months. We need to reach out and contact people.
I will.
That's a really good idea. Not only fun, that will get you a lot of views too. I think people will be interested in watching that.
Imagine we do like a raw recording of the whole event, but then we break it up into like MtPain versus Decino, MtPain versus Coincident, Doomkid versus Coincident, and that sort of thing. And like we can watch the individual duels, and team matches. But also, like I was thinking, we collect a bunch of footage from different people's perspectives, and I could cut together some kind of highlight reel, and we could kind of promote it on all of our different channels.
That's a really cool idea. So yeah, one big large stream and then like the highlights. No, that's an awesome idea.
You should definitely do it. There's a few challenges to that. The first one will be getting everybody online at the same time, taking into account. It would
probably have to be over
Australia,
days,
Europe, US, different time zones. And the second issue is the editing. There's a lot of work in there. But that sounds very promising. I hope you do it.
Oh, it's good. Now that I've talked about it with you, Coincident, and a few other people, and put it out in public, now I gotta do it. Now the pressure's on. All right. Well, I think I'll go ahead and cut the recording here. Thank you for joining us, Coincident. It was really fun talking to both of you, as it always is with MtPain. It was a great time. I'm really glad that you joined us for this.
I'm very glad to be here. It was a very relaxing chat. Very nice evening.
Wonderful to meet you, Coincident.
Likewise.
Yeah, it was really good. Finally actually chat after all this time. Well, everyone watching, take care, and we'll see you again soon.